snow fell cold on a bitter night. John was gone for the morning light. They blame Karen, but it don't sit right. Too many secrets hid from sight. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town. Proctor's story shifts and sways. Cameras vanish, records fade. The Alberts toast while the doubts grow strong. The folks still fight, won't be long. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town. Proctor's story shifts and sways. Cameras vanish, records fade. The Alberts toast while the doubts grow strong. The folks still fight, won't be long. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are, what if any you might be, and welcome to this special day stream because, as you all know, no court today because we're taking a day off because Beverly Canoni, Miss Beveridge herself, wanted to celebrate that King Frederick X has his birthday today, and I appreciate it. It's his first birthday as king, I think. So wonderful that Beverly chose to take a day off so we can all celebrate King Frederick X. Long may he reign. And maybe Memorial Day as well. But I want to believe that Beverly, as she knows the Royal House of Denmark is the premier royal house in the world, chose to keep the day off to celebrate our king. Welcome all. And happy Memorial Day. Let's remember those who did so we didn't have to. Because talk about bad pay, bad work, and lots of times they also have a lot of baggage with them home, but they chose to do it, so you don't have to do it. And thank them all for the world we are lucky enough to live in today. Without their sacrifices, it would have been way worse than what we are seeing today. And I was talking about yesterday what to do today, because again, it's Memorial Day. I normally do stream on American holidays because I know some people might not have a party or parade or family to go to, and these days especially can get a little bit lonely. And normally I'll do a little thing to fill it out. And today, I'm sorry, because I rewatched parts of it yesterday to find out where the timestamp I needed was. Today we will be rewatching the cross-examination of Trooper Paul, the crass specialist that the Commonwealth used in the first Karen Reed trial. I thought, hey, let's do all of it. It's only like 6 hours. Then I listened to 20 minutes of Lally asking him questions, and I said, nope, we're doing cross-examination only because I couldn't take that much lollygagging, and I don't know what's wrong with Trooper Paul, but he kind of sounds like a kid who didn't do his homework and someone found out. So at some points he sounded like he was about to cry, and I thought, let's just do the easy one. Bernice Conklin, hey, hope all is well. Happy Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to you as well. And no, not all is well. I just got an email from Finnair because I'm flying with the British Airways to America next week. And they just sent me that the union have put out a warning that they might go on a strike on Monday. So I might be stuck in Finland. But then I'll probably learn how to eat elk meat or something. Well, it's not going to be fun. It's going to be hard. Hey, Jen. I agree. It was too painful the first time. It was really, he's really, really bad. And Lally is absurdly bad as well. Yeah, if I wouldn't do that to my worst enemy or Jennifer Coffindaffer. I hope defense calls Trooper Paul in the second trial. They won't. There's no reason to call him. The guy never saw the crash site. The guy is at best a mediocre trooper who has no understanding. Keep it with the Arca guys. Helene T., wie geht's dir heute? It is nice in Finland. I bet you it's a wonderful place, but it's part of my 26-hour journey. I really just want those 40 minutes in Helsinki airport to be I'm gonna find the next plane and then I'm off again. But I don't know. If anything bad happens, I'll hopefully get either a refund or rebooking. It's okay. Valhalla's gonna pick me up anyway. Still has a better resume than Burgess. Actually, they did the same courses, online courses. Hey, Farley. Weather here sucks big time since weeks. Other than that, it's fine. It's been raining here for 3 days now. Well, I will try, Benny, but thank you for joining us. Hey, the Goodmans. And I had something else on my mind. Yes, tomorrow I can't remember what it is. I have a day, well, not a day. I have to go to court tomorrow at 8 a.m. your time to finish a trial, and I can't remember what it's about. So maybe it's 20 minutes, maybe it's 2 hours. I don't know. It won't be 2 hours, but maybe it's an hour and a half. So tomorrow's transmission will start a little bit late, but we're going to catch up. So don't you worry. I should be out of court by 9:30. 9:30 is normally when Beverly gets her act together and starts court. So hope you will still watch it with us tomorrow, because we'll be perhaps slightly late, perhaps not if it's just I think we might just need to hear closings and then the sentencing guideline, and then we'll be done. Hey, Jen D, I'm glad you're catching alive. Maybe Trooper Paul is currently pursuing higher education. No need to do that. He is a trooper at the MSP. He makes a lot of money. Yo. But kind of like a band-aid, let's just rip it off because this guy. Oh, maybe I should put this on. I think I have to put on the booster because remember last year has been low. Well, you don't have to miss me anymore. You are here now. Thank you for joining us, Laura. And you don't have to respectfully disagree with me on anything on the Twit thread. Just tell me I'm an idiot. Don't call me fat like all the others do.
So do you have any, do you hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of mathematics?
I do not.
Do you hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of physics?
I do not.
Hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of biomechanics?
No.
How about in engineering?
No.
How about in kinematics?
No.
What's the highest degree that you do hold, sir?
I have an associate's degree.
In what?
Administration of justice.
You mentioned kinematics.
Will JC open with a sidebar tomorrow? I don't know if Jesus Christ is stopping by court tomorrow. Could be cool. Well, that could be cool because that would mean there was the rapture. But we will probably most likely start with a sidebar tomorrow. I think if they're calling Dr. Welcher tomorrow, there might be a sidebar. Well, a lot of people call me fat on the Twit thread. Well, if you want me mad, you can do it. Hey, American Dreamer. Hello, Empire.
On Friday, do you hold any
Well, the problem is you forgot how bad he is because he's horrible.
certificates in the specific area of kinematics?
Yes, it's covered in the basic crash investigation classes.
Okay, so you took a class, in other words, correct?
Multiple classes.
You introduced the idea of what kinematics is, right?
Correct.
Testify about that on Friday.
Yes.
Define kinematics, George.
It deals with the aspect of motion.
It's a subfield of what broader field?
Kinematics?
Kinematics is a subfield of what broader discipline of science?
I'm not sure.
Physics, correct?
Yes.
And it describes
This is so bad. This is so bad. I forgot how bad he is. Hey, you are more than welcome. And if you get mad, yell into a pillow. I think I might need to do this today. Hey, Stylen, waving from Cape Cod. Did you see Bev? I don't know if that's the Cape she goes to. I don't know anything. Oh, I don't like his beard. It's too scruffy. Yeah, it's a little bit, yeah. Monsieur Baumeister. He did his besties and his mom said so. Oh, his mommy said so too, yeah. I'm still debating which annihilation was worse. AJ's annihilation of Trooper Paul and Leslie's annihilation of Burgess. I think this is worse because he sounds like he's getting beaten with a stick.
how points and objects and systems of objects, how they move, and how the rate they move and the rate of their velocity, correct?
It deals with the motions.
What's that called? The rate of velocity. What's another word for that?
The rate of velocity?
Correct.
I mean, it deals with motion. It deals with forward and also deals with speed. It deals with travel and speed. If something's moving, it also has a speed to it.
Right. The word you're looking for is acceleration, correct?
Sure.
What role does acceleration play in the field of kinematics?
What role does acceleration play in kinematics?
Right.
It talks about, like you just said, it talks about the speed and talks about motion.
Is kinematics also known as the geometry of motion? Is that correct?
I have not heard that.
Never heard that. What's the difference between constrained and unconstrained motion?
Constrained and unconstrained motion?
That's what I asked.
constrained motion. I can't recollect at the moment.
Constrained motion
Constrained or unconstrained? It's in the name.
is motion on a predetermined path, isn't it?
Yes.
Unconstrained motion is what?
When it doesn't have a predetermined path?
Free movement, correct?
Correct.
Can you remember that from your class?
For the most part, we don't go that in depth, constrained and unconstrained.
Constrained and unconstrained, not restrained.
That's what I said. Sorry, unconstrained. Yes.
I love that he's. That's what I said. No, it wasn't. It's. Valhalla, you normally do this if you're awake. How much did this guy make last year?
Kinematics uses algebraic formula to model these motions, right? The motions of these points, systems of points, correct?
Yes.
And it includes concepts like displacement and speed, velocity, distance, acceleration, which we've talked
Nina Canadian, enjoy it. You will be bewildered that this case ended up in a hung jury.
about, correct?
Correct.
And it looks at how these things, these values vary over a point in time or duration in time. Is that right? Do
Yes.
you actually understand the physics behind the study of kinematics?
Yes.
Or did you learn in the class?
Yes, we had to go over the physics part of it.
On Friday, you said that this incident is a pedestrian strike from a vehicle. You reiterated that again this morning. Is that right?
Correct.
I want to be clear. That is your opinion based on your training and experience, correct?
Yes.
And on Friday, you said you based that fact, or you based that rather opinion, on the fact that you noted a half-mile-an-hour decrease in speed and a steering input of less than 10 degrees at some point in that reverse motion, correct?
I said that was consistent. That data point in general was consistent with something that you would see within data of a pedestrian striker striking something else. I do go in my report saying I can't say that's definitively where a pedestrian was struck, but
I'm sorry, I can
it
barely.
wasn't definitively. Sorry, in my report, I do say I can't say that is definitively where the pedestrian struck.
You cannot say.
Definitively, yes.
Okay, so you're going to have to slow down and speak up, okay?
You said, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, and I apologize.
Okay.
You said you cannot.
Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, Benise. And but even though it sounds a little bit, it's not suffering anymore. That's a bad disease for human and animals. Hey, Ria. And yes, Jen McCabe was spotted at the Cape. You can see it on Twitter. She has that thing with people who has too big teeth where they hide their mouth when they're talking.
Say definitively that that resulted in a pedestrian strike.
That data point within the text stream data is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That specific points, that time frame.
Because there's a multitude of reasons why when someone is driving in reverse, they might slow down by half a mile an hour, right?
It's when I say when it's consistent, it's because there's the other aspects of it is the fact that the accelerator is consistently strong.
Let him answer. Finish your answer.
So the accelerator is consistent at a constant rate, and then it just drops by half a mile, and the steering wheel all of a sudden abruptly goes to the right. That's what I'm talking about when I say it is consistent with a pedestrian strike. That's something that you would see. It's not going to be a huge change of speed during this collision.
You also note that at the time, it had begun to snow, correct?
Yes,
There would be snow on the lawn, right?
correct.
There would be snow on the cars,
Yes,
snow on the trees,
yes,
snow on the roadway.
yes,
Snow on the roadway could impact how tires move over the roadway, correct?
in a way.
And obviously, there are a multitude of reasons why somebody might input a 10-degree input on a steering wheel, correct?
Correct. That's why I can definitely say it.
Right. So every time somebody slows down, going in reverse or forward, and introduces a 10-degree input on the steering wheel, doesn't mean they're looking to hit a pedestrian, correct?
Correct.
You testified that you determined the area of impact by basically following, if I heard your testimony correctly, basically following the debris field from the body from where you believed John O'Keefe's body's final resting place was, almost linearly to the furthermost piece of debris that was found. Did I get that right?
Yes.
In other words, you established what in your mind, or what you were told was his final resting place, and what you were told was the debris field. And you indicated that the furthermost piece of debris would basically be the area, right?
It's within that line. I didn't say that is the area impact where the furthermost piece of evidence is.
All right.
It's just the linear, like you said earlier. It's that linear. We're going that path. That's the path that he traveled post impact with the vehicle.
And that is on which that fact that you stated is on which it's a terrible question. That's the basis for your opinion of where the area of impact was, correct?
Yes.
Let's take a look at exhibit, with the court's permission, 587. It's your diagram 3. If I may approach on this verb.
Okay.
May I approach?
Yes.
So you can see it. Your Honor, did you publish?
I don't know.
Exhibit
Did I lose
587?
monetization?
Yes.
Maybe I did.
Okay. Sir, you see diagram 3 on the board. You also have it in front of you, correct?
Yes.
It's easier
It shows
to
up
refer
on
to
my
what's in front of you because that's a little bit further away. Just let me know.
Okay.
The red arrows adjacent to the blue writing, where I'm highlighting right now, indicate basically the debris field that you explained to the jurors on Friday, correct?
Yes.
And then there's a point of an arrow that comes back to a wording that says pedestrian's final rest, basically right there, correct?
Yes.
And the debris field ends right in the middle of that spotlight, correct?
Yes.
All right. So that's the area of impact that you indicated to Mr. Lally. You believe.
Thank you, American Dreamer. And yes, they are working. Thank you so much for helping figuring that one out. That's very kind of you. Maybe Meat Hook has it's down with him, but I was just afraid that Marissa already demonetized my channel before she takes over next week. She did it to Val last year. I can't show it because I did do a note. I'll show it in a bit. Who do you want to cross wheelchair, Ajax or Captain Bob? I want Bob. I don't know which one is Bob, but I like the name Bob. Well, sometimes you need to get slapped in the face with the obvious, like Emmanuel Macron.
Occurred because of the debris field and the linear portion of that debris field going from pedestrian's final rest all the way out to that final little red arrow that says red plastic B in parentheses, correct?
Yes.
Can we have exhibit 492?
Then I want
Published to the juror, please?
Alessi.
Okay.
I need technical.
While that's coming up, have you ever seen this?
No, I haven't.
Take a look just above the arrow. You're on the court's permission, maybe highlight or magnify the area just above the arrow.
Okay.
You see that
Yes, I do.
right underneath fire hydrant, correct?
Correct.
What does that look like to you?
Piece of plastic.
It's debris, correct?
Correct.
All right. Can we go back with the court's permission to exhibit 87?
Okay.
Diagram 2.
We don't know. We know he's not bringing back Trooper Paul because he hired an expert, even though that the Commonwealth already paid Trooper Paul $42,000 this year. So why can't he just use the people who works for the Commonwealth already? And the problem is this guy is so stupid he didn't even notice evidence that goes against his theory, and he has the best answer to that. It's kind of like Zach when he's trying to tell us why he didn't catch any fish.
You see the fire hydrant?
Yes.
Fire hydrant's right there, correct?
Correct.
That's another, according to
Congratulations. When is the baby due?
your scale, that's probably a good 30 feet from the pedestrian's final rest, correct?
Yeah, that's about right.
That is the furthermost in this diagram, the furthermost piece of debris on the diagram, correct?
Correct.
So now your testimony changed that this, in fact, is the area of impact.
No,
Why not?
Because this is just a piece of debris. I'm talking about the path. You follow the path of debris fields. Debris can move and change.
The debris doesn't fly backward, does it?
I'm saying you pointed to like just the fire hydrant as the area impact where the debris, where that one piece of plastic was, saying that's the area impact is right next to the fire hydrant.
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah, that's what you said, right?
I'm asking you.
I'm making sure I'm understanding what you're saying so I can answer the right.
Ask the question again, Mr. Jackson.
In fact, you indicated on Friday that your analysis of the area of impact was predicated on, based on, the furthermost piece of debris from the pedestrian's body that you were aware of, which is right there. Red plastic B, correct?
I said you said earlier with the linear equation. I mean, it might have moved it over more, but it's the debris, the start of that debris, and when that is, I can't say that's definitely the point of area impact or the point of impact. I cannot.
Sorry to interrupt again, but what's wrong with, is everyone having a speech impediment, or is it an accent thing? Because he has the same problem pronouncing words that Brennan has.
I say that is the point of impact right there. You just kind of follow the linear path because they have to follow in a direct path that way.
Okay, so now your testimony is that's not the area of impact.
I never said that was the area impact. I said it's after that.
Trooper, we were all here on Friday.
Okay.
It's exactly what you said under questioning by Mr. Wiley, wasn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Didn't you say on Friday that you determined the area of impact for Mr. O'Keefe? The point of impact was red plastic B because that was the furthermost piece of debris you were aware of from the final point of rest from Mr. O'Keefe's body. Isn't that what you said?
I don't believe that's my exact words.
Okay, I'm not asking if it was your exact words. I don't have a transcript of it. I'm asking you, is that what you tried to impart to the jurors?
What I said to the jury, I said after that. That's the start of, that's the last point of evidence that I had. I said the area impact is probably along the roadway.
No, it's not, because you were just shown a piece of evidence that is even on your own slide. How is he getting a paycheck?
After that point. I mean, like before it, after we walk towards him.
I'm sorry, I keep doing that because I think you're done. Are you done?
I am done now. Sorry.
Now you're aware there's a piece of debris, looks like taillight material, right under the fire hydrant, correct?
Correct.
If the area of impact, which you indicated on Friday, was where this red plastic B is, you would be wrong, right? Your analysis would be flawed.
No, because that's not what I said. I said it's along the roadway, and it's going to be after that point.
Okay, so is the area of impact now where the fire hydrant is?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
Are you now indicating, because now you realize that there's a piece of debris directly under the fire hydrant, are you now indicating that that's the area of impact where John O'Keefe's body was struck?
Objection.
Sustained.
Let's take a look at exhibit, with the court's permission, 279.
Okay.
Take a look at exhibit 279. I want to draw your attention to that piece right there, okay, of plastic. You see it?
Yes.
You describe it for me. Just physically, what does that look like?
It looks like clear plastic with a little bit of red. And
Can I explain the photo? Yes, I can explain the photo. This is the, I'm just going to remove this. This is the evidence that they used to show where John O'Keefe died. And they clearly stated that the reason why he said there was an impact here was because this is where the debris field started and John's body ended up here, right in front of the flagpole. That's why he claimed it's a pedestrian strike, because there's debris here and he flew over here. You're going to get a description about how he flew. It's so ridiculous that I won't spoil it for you. The problem was they also found debris down here, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Only the evidence that I need to kind of prove my point. You need to know, well, you're going to find out. Trooper Paul was never at the scene. He never saw any of the evidence. He just did a report based on what other people told him. Him and Lally spent, I think it was like 4 hours talking about it, and it was mind-numbingly stupid. this guy did 120 or 140 hours of online crash reconstruction courses. But his theory is Karen Reed at or about this place hit John O'Keefe going in reverse 24.3 miles an hour, sideswiping him, sending him flying over here while he hit his head on the curb. Oh, I said I wouldn't say. Well, it's stupid, but this is what he claims. He was sideswiped here, even though the debris field starts over here. And then he did a 360 while doing a pirouette and slamming his head against the curb. That was his theory of it. But I thought most people have seen it, so I didn't want to torture you with 4 hours of Lally.
That's the area of impact where John O'Keefe. Take a look at Exhibit 279. I want to draw your attention to that piece right there of plastic. You see it?
Yes.
You describe it for me. Just physically, what does that look like?
It looks like clear plastic with a little bit of red and black on the top part.
Okay. Maybe in a triangular shape. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if we could go back to, with the court's permission, Exhibit 492.
Okay.
And highlight just above the ruler. How would you describe that piece of material?
It looks like the same piece.
Does that, based on that, does that appear to be part of the taillight material that was found at the scene?
Correct.
Okay. Now, based on that, are you now suggesting, if we could go with the court's permission, if we could go back to 587, I'll stop jumping around just a second. I think we
Okay.
just get back to 587. Oh, sorry, the diagram. Okay. Now, seeing what you've just now seen in terms of that piece of plastic that appears to be from the taillight, does that appear to be under the fire hydrant, which is highlighted? Same piece.
Yes.
Okay. Based on that, does that change your opinion? Is that now, the fire hydrant now, point of impact?
No.
Where's the point of impact now?
It's along the roadway. I don't know the exact point of impact.
So you don't know the area of impact?
I said the area of impact is along the roadway after the debris.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing it would change, only thing it would change is maybe it's a little further away. But besides that, it's still.
But if it changed that it was a little bit further away, then it changes your entire math equation. Because your math equation has to figure out what is the air velocity speed of an unladen swallow. And I don't know if it's an African or European swallow. But you can't just move the point of impact, because if you move the point of impact, then you need to apply more force to send the body to the point of rest. This is actually what he just asked you about, if you knew anything about math. I'm not a mathematician. I am absolutely not a physicist, because my lowest grades were in, well, it was in writing, but that's because I'm dyslexic. But what you're trying to figure out when you do this to see if it fits the mold, you have to figure out if object A is here and object B is here, is that consistent with £7,000 of force, 7,000 pounds with the force going 24.3 miles per hour? Is it consistent that object A could be moved to spot B, from spot B to A with that amount of force? You can't just say, well, I'm just changing it to C, because if C is here, then you would have to have some way of determining why the extra amount of force wasn't applied. If your calculation is working for this, then you would have to change these two factors, because we know the only static thing is John O'Keefe's body. And that's 6.2, 120 pounds or so, 220 pounds, something like that. What amount of force needs to be asserted to that body to make it end here? You can't just change the difference. It's not... Again, I got maybe a C if I had to translate it in physics. But even I know that. It's redonkulous that this guy is getting paid. You can't just make because it has to do with how far the body traveled. It's Newton's law. You need to understand Newton's law. An object acted upon, because it transfers energy. Well, it just means we're talking about maybe 2 car lengths further up the road. If that's true, John O'Keefe would have flown 20, 30 feet in the air and slammed down. Then you have to backtrack and say 6.2, 220 pounds. At what amount of force does he need to be airlifted that far? What damages would you have on the body if it had those forces acted upon it? The further you move it away, the more force needs to be applied to send him flying. The more force applied to his body, the more injuries should have been on his body. Oh. Should we end this now? I think I'm getting a headache.
It's a linear field. I'm not talking about like one point. It's you kind of follow the middle of the debris field, and that should be the path.
Well, if the point of impact is along the roadway, where along the roadway?
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying all of this, we have a high belief that Arca will tell everything. No, the juries in the first trial turned out to be morons. They didn't care. They just said she was drunk. We need to find her guilty of something.
So the jurors, where along the roadway, in your expert opinion, was the point of impact?
It should be within, if you follow from pedestrian's final rest here, just kind of follow back. That's what I'm talking about, linear field. I can't.
So now you've indicated an area, if I can follow your laser pointer, an area along here, correct?
It's
so
stupid.
All right, if I have my spotlight, is that, if I leave it right there, is that about where the middle of the spotlight, about where you believe the area of impact is?
It's within, I guess you can say it's within that area. I don't know, definitely there's nothing on the roadway that has a definitive point that says this is the area impact right here. It's within the roadway based on the evidence at the scene.
Okay. Mr. Trooper Paul, I'm asking you, based on your expert opinion and your conclusions, based on your full analysis, can you point me to within an area of 5 feet or so on the roadway where you believe the area of impact is? Is my spotlight basically highlighting the area that you believe, in your opinion, is the area of impact?
You have that laser pointer?
I do.
Why don't we let him show you? It'd be easier for the jury to see.
So what I'm trying to say is, so we follow the linear path back around this area.
Okay, can you?
And sorry, I'm trying to keep it straight as much as I can. Follow back to here. I can't say like if this definitely is, but it's possibly based on also vehicle damage to the back of the vehicle. So if you follow all the way back to here, that could be a possible area impact.
So when you say that area there, I want to be very clear for the record that what you highlighted is an area basically just to the left of an X that's on the roadway, on the bottom of diagram 3, toward the lower part of diagram 3.
It's
correct.
You would use your circle almost to kind of be a good area around.
I'm sorry.
You can use a circle around here. This would be around the area.
Okay.
Okay.
So using your scale, that scale is going from full left to full right, plus or minus 40 feet, right?
Switch. Can't see it. So say again. Say the question.
That scale's 40 feet. Going full left, full right, 40 feet.
It's 40 feet. So it's a 10-foot scale.
Okay, sorry, 20 feet. My mistake.
That was okay.
As a terror. 20 feet. Thank you. All right, so if you use that scale, can you estimate for the jurors? I'm just going to use this X as a starting point. You estimate for the jurors from this X that I've highlighted. So the pedestrian's final rest. What's that number? It doesn't have to be exact. Give me an estimate.
So, I mean, it could be within 30 feet because I tell you this, also on my scale, this 2 and 3 is 50 feet from each other.
Is how much?
50.
Okay. 50.
It's 50.
So would you agree that from this X down here to pedestrian's final rest, as the crow flies, that's probably a good 35, 40 feet,
I mean, I could try to use the scale, but it is a scale.
if you wouldn't mind. You need a piece of paper?
Yes, please.
Court's permission?
Okay.
Just a blank piece of paper.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
You need a pen?
I got one. Thank you. It's a little around, it's approximately 30 feet.
Approximately 30 feet.
Yes.
Okay. Can you place, with the court's permission, can you estimate 30 feet in here?
Can
Can you point to a place in the courtroom that looks like it's 30 feet from you?
Objection.
No. Next question.
Does the court have a diagram of a diagram of distances?
In this courtroom? No.
You indicated just now, and then I'm finished with this. Thank you. Thanks. You indicated just now, in answer to Mr. Lowry's last couple of questions, that in your expert opinion, when the SUV struck the pedestrian, John O'Keefe, he was, quote, projected forward and to the left to the front yard to his final place of rest.
Yes.
So your expert testimony is that John O'Keefe was hit with the SUV and flew 30 feet.
Projected, I mean, like I don't say he flew all the way there. He was projected in that way. He got pushed forward in that direction.
Which, if he was rendered incapacitated, landed there, he'd have to sort of fly there, right? Didn't walk there.
I mean, would you definitely flying like literally off the ground the whole entire time? Or,
Well, you tell me, you're the expert.
I mean, when we say projected, he gets projected and they usually have a landing phase and they land and then they either roll or tumble to final rest.
Okay, how far do you think he landed? How far was it until he landed of that 30 feet?
I don't know. There's no indication of where his exact landing spot was.
Is there any evidence whatsoever that he landed and rolled?
And there was no evidence that he landed or rolled. Rolled.
According to you, the evidence that you have in front of you is that you get hit, fly 30 feet, land where he ended up at his final rest, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Based on your expert opinion, you believe that he was projected through the air to his final rest place.
That's not what I was saying.
But you said there's no evidence that he rolled.
And there's no evidence that he.
I'm talking to ChatGPT to try and see if it can make any sense.
Flew through the air either.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Objection.
Sustained.
You said on Friday that in your experience, people tend to lose objects that are not strapped to them. Is that right?
Yes.
In other words, get hit by something, car, truck, bus, whatever, train, and if you have something in your hand, boom, you lose it, you drop it. If it's not strapped to you, correct?
Correct.
How do you suppose that Mr. O'Keefe, in your opinion, held on to that glass cup that was found right next to him over the course of 30 feet being projected?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Do you have a theory on that?
I don't know. I mean, it just could have been with him the whole way. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know how the glass stayed with his body and went with him to the final rest.
So it's just common sense. You have to believe that it was in his hand. He held on to it the entire time he was being projected, correct?
It's possibly, it could have been in his hand. It could have been tucked next to his clothing. Did
you say tucked into?
I mean, like, could have been next to his body. So when he projected, maybe the glass was with his body as it was also flying. So there's a number of reasons why the glass, because it also got projected with the body while he was holding it.
I thought you said on Friday, and you just agreed with me, that people drop things.
It's really hard to make it understand.
Yes, body not everything it tends to fly off. I mean, some stuff flies off, some stuff will stay on.
I see.
It's not uncommon to find piece of clothing and stuff, that you find at the scene.
piece of clothing.
Like clothing, like shoes. I mean, like shoes and stuff like that to come off the body during a pedestrian crash.
Well, that's not what I asked.
I know. I'm just saying. You asked me. You said what I'm just responding to what you said, and trying to make sure you understand what I'm saying.
No, I don't. But I'll ask another question. Shoes are strapped on by definition, right?
Yes, but it's very common for shoes to come off.
How about a cell phone?
Cell phone. Yeah. Yeah. It depends. Depends on where it is.
Well, it was under his body.
Okay.
How do you account for that? He held onto a cell phone with one hand.
It's on YouTube's end, most likely.
And held onto the cup with the other.
But thank you for thinking of me.
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
If the cell phone was found under his torso, under his body, what's your theory on how that cell phone ended up flying 30 feet away?
It just did.
Just did.
It's just
And somehow, as he landed, tucked that cell phone underneath his body, so he landed on top of it.
It just did. That's the evidence at the scene. I didn't put the evidence there. So
Well, you didn't.
Objection.
All right. So jurors, I've told you before, lawyers cannot make comments. So disregard it. Mr. Jackson, don't do it
I
again.
understand. So
You understand, but don't do it. Your answer is always, I understand. Don't do it.
Yes, Your Honor. Cell phone in one hand, cup in the other hand.
this is actually, it's horrible that this guy was a witness. I understand why they're not bringing him back for this one.
Flew through the air, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were informed of this incident on January 29th, 2022 at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Is that right?
yes,
At the time, you were working out of the CARS facility, which is located on West Grove Street in Middleborough. Is that right?
yes,
By the way, that's a facility that has multiple garages. Sally ports, I don't know if they're called Sally ports, but garage bays, correct?
the mechanic shop are there.
The mechanic shop
Yes,
is, if you're going to review, for instance, for purposes of reconstruction, if you're going to review a vehicle, is the vehicle placed in those mechanics bays?
no, not there. That's for state police vehicles.
Okay, so where are the mechanics bays, sorry, reverse that. Where are the Sally ports where you do your analysis, your reconstruction, your review of the vehicle, inspections, things of that nature?
We don't have Sally ports for that.
You don't have anything dedicated to that?
No, the only time we would use a Sally port is the crime scene would have some Sally ports that they would do to document their crime scene stuff. And
Didn't he get removed from the DA's office?
I've gone there, they've done my inspections, but most of our inspections are done either at the tow yard or some type of facility for that.
Ultimately, was this SUV ever taken to the Middleborough facility?
Yes, it was.
Where was it placed?
There's a fenced in area inside it's a fenced in area
Is it outside or inside?
outside.
Okay. Did it remain outside in that fenced-in area the whole time?
I don't know the exact time. It was there for a while, then it got moved.
Where did it get moved to?
I'm not sure exactly where they moved it immediately after it left Middleborough.
Are you familiar with the Foxborough location?
Yes.
That have Sally ports or bays for inspection and evaluation.
It has garages in it, but we wouldn't use them. We don't normally use those garages for inspections.
Is it possible to use those garages for inspections?
It is possible.
Okay. It's happened before, correct?
I've not used the inspection in the garages.
But,
I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up and
Sorry,
speak
yes.
slowly.
but you know that it could be used.
Sorry.
Sorry. You know that those bays could be used for inspections or analysis or evaluation if needed, correct?
Yes.
All right.
His stupidity.
Given the fact that the SUV that was being seized on January 29th was being seized as potential evidence, best practices would suggest that you want to get it in and out of the.
I just put in all the things, and then I asked it, what would happen to the arm if it was hit on the elbow with the tail light, ending up in the body landing 20 feet off the road. And it says, if the elbow strikes the tail light and shatters it, the injuries to the elbow would be severe and include bone fractures, complex or open fractures in the humerus, I don't know, ulnar and or radius, joint injuries, dislocation of the elbow and complete tears of the ulnar and radial collateral ligaments, tearing of muscles, biceps and tricep, damage to the ulnar nerve, numbness, weakness in the hand, and potential damage to the brachial artery, bleeding, laceration, tears, and penetrating injuries from shattered plastic glass with a risk of foreign bodies in the wound, rotation injuries, spiral fractures or worsened ligament injuries due to the body's rotation, The injuries require immediate surgical intervention and may lead to permanent loss of function in the arm. The shattering of the taillight increases the risk of lacerations, but only marginally reduces the transferred force, as the car's frame still delivers most of the energy. This guy didn't even get a bruise.
Bad weather, the inclement weather, as quickly as possible, correct? You wouldn't want to subject it to continued forces from nature like rain, wind, snow, sleet, hail, right?
That would be beneficial, yes.
All right. You're aware that the Foxborough location and the Middleborough location with the mechanics base are all closer to Dighton than Canton, right?
Both Foxborough and
Foxborough and Middleborough are both closer to Dighton than Canton. In other words, you have to pass by, depending on which way you go, pass by Middleborough, pass by Foxborough to get to Canton.
Yeah, but a sideswipe, they still have to have the arm hit the taillight. I said only the elbow hit the taillight. I didn't say that the arm hit the back of the car or anything. This was just the elbow to the taillight, and that's what it gave me. But on this guy, it didn't even pull the arm out of the socket. That's something stupid. The trajectory of the taillight fragments do not make sense. They should have been predominantly in the road, not on the lawn, because of the direction. I know, I've said this a million times. The glass should have not been under him. That should have been flung, because if he had it in his hand, he would lose it. But at the same time, we know he was also holding on to his mobile phone, because he checks it a minute after he died. Sometimes after he was incapacitated. Sometimes you do that. You're laying there thinking, should I call the cops because my arm is really fucked up? The ulna and the fibia, tibia, whatever the bones are named, are sticking out through the skin. Jen called. I don't want to talk to that. Let's close my phone, put it under my body with my arm that isn't working because everything is threaded inside of it, and then I'm going to die. Anyone who still believes the Commonwealth theory must be a paid actor for the MSP, must hate Aidan Carney, or must be in an assisted living facility being instructed to remember to breathe. Because if you just use common sense, I'm not even saying you need a physics degree, just common sense tells you that this arm would have been more beat up than a cat in a barrel at fastelavn. Hey, Ken.
So from where?
From Dighton, sorry.
So from Dighton?
Where the vehicle was seized.
Yeah.
All going toward Canton. You pass by either Middleborough or Foxborough to get to Canton. Right?
I don't believe you'd pass by Middleborough to get to Canton, but you've passed by Foxborough.
All right. The car was not taken to Foxborough, was it?
No.
As a matter of fact, the car was taken basically double the distance all the way to Canton to that Sally Port, correct?
Objection.
Do you know that? Is that double the distance?
I don't know the exact distance. I know it was in Canton.
And you know it's fine to Canton.
From Dighton, yes.
Right. And you're also aware that because you've been to the scene, assuming, correct? The 3430.
Yes, I have.
In Canton, PD.
Yes, I have.
You know those two locations are about 3-4 minutes apart.
Yeah, I can say that.
When you started let me ask this a little bit different way. Before you began any review on this case, any physical review on this case or analysis on the case, you were told that there had been a crash, correct?
Yes.
You testified to that at the state court.
Ken, I would accept if they are not studying forward, they are studying physics and stuff. That could be an acceptable subfield to study.
Grand jury in this matter. Is that right? That you've been told in advance this was a vehicle pedestrian crash and you were asked to analyze it, right?
Yes.
You wrote in your report that it was a single vehicle collision involving a pedestrian and you were, quote, assigned to reconstruct that collision, correct?
Yes.
So when you began your analysis, Trooper Paul, you were told conclusively by the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, that the deceased was hit by a car and your job was to reconstruct it. Is that right?
Objection.
Okay, so there are lots of parts to that. Break it down.
Sure. Were you told by Michael Proctor to reconstruct this incident?
Objection.
Were you told that by Trooper Proctor?
I was not.
Okay, next question.
Sure. Who were you told, who were you given your instructions by
Instructions for what?
to reconstruct this incident?
I wasn't given instructions to reconstruct it. It's just I was assigned to it.
Right.
That was requested. My assistance was requested to reconstruct it.
That's my question. Who assigned you to it?
I talked to my sergeant at the time who gave me the phone call.
And you were told some basics about that reconstruction, the event that you were asked to reconstruct, correct?
Yes.
The information that you were told came from the case officer. Is that right?
Who's the case officer?
The information that this was a pedestrian vehicle incident, as opposed to motor vehicle incident, pedestrian bicycle, motor vehicle motorcycle. You were told it was a motor vehicle pedestrian incident that you were asked to reconstruct, correct?
Yeah, I was told that, yes.
Right. And you had to be given some basic parameters of what that incident, how that incident occurred. The car was going in reverse. It's got a damaged taillight, things like that.
Yes, we have a Queen Mary, but she's from Australia, not built in Liverpool.
Some basic stuff, yeah.
What I'm asking is, I'm trying to get to is, who gave you that information? Where'd it come from?
That the car was traveling in, like, which part of the information? You asked me several different things just now.
Were you given information from multiple sources? Or did someone give you a summary of what you were being asked to do? At the very beginning,
Yep.
who gave you the summary
Summary of the whole entire, of what?
of the event that you were asked to reconstruct?
I was passed down when I got to the garage. That there was nobody that sat there and gave me the summary, like, that I can remember. I was told that it was a pedestrian crash. I knew it was a Boston police officer involved, that this was the vehicle.
Does the air velocity change because it's a Boston cop? You don't need that information.
And that it was traveling in reverse. That's all they had.
Okay. What I'm asking is, that's great. Thank you for the summary. Who gave you that summary?
I don't know if it was definitely anybody from the get-go that was like I talked to.
From where?
I don't know if it's anybody that I could definitely say that was the person. There was multiple people going around when I got there. I think I talked to Trooper Zach Clark. He was doing the crime scene. I think he was more Zach Clark. He was the crime scene photos at the time. I knew him from past crashes. He just said this is the vehicle, and I think he kind of gave me a little bit of a lowdown on what the vehicle was.
Okay.
So
My question is this. When you got that, did you call it a lowdown? He gave you the lowdown?
he gave me information, yes.
Right. When you got the lowdown, you were told Boston police officer was involved. The vehicle pedestrian incident, car was going in reverse, and ultimately led to the death of the pedestrian. Struck the pedestrian in reverse, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you were assigned specifically to try to reconstruct that incident.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the phrase confirmation bias?
I know the phrase, yes.
You know what it means?
I can't definitely say what it means.
Any Massachusetts in chat? Are your water pipes covered in lead? I know they believe that some of the things that might have led to the downfall of the Roman Empire was that they used lead for water pipes. I think it's a weird theory, but still, they claim it. We're talking about a trooper who has something. He went to school, I believe, more than 3 years. He has heard the phrase confirmation bias, but he couldn't exactly tell you what it means. For those of you who were here the night that Plevin started crying after he met the Baconator, Plevin made fun of me because I speak 3 languages, because that's apparently stupid people who speak 3 languages. I know what confirmation bias is. It's that someone told you the result, so you try to make it fit into that theory. No one gave you a blank space and told you We found this body here. We think it was this car. Can you figure out what happened? Which is what a crash expert should do. This guy was paid $123,000 or $142,000 last year of taxpayer money. Taxpayer money went to this guy. He was paid roughly as much as a politician in our national government makes a year. He doesn't know physics, which is a big part of his job. He can't even tell you what confirmation bias is. On the bottom of my tax bill, I would write, could you please refund me for the MSP? Yeah, this... it's... They eat paint chips. Well, I don't think everyone in Massachusetts, but you have... I know cops are not normally the smartest of the smart people, but they kind of have, in Denmark at least, they have to do an IQ portion of the test to get in there. They have the physicals and then they have their written exams. Because it's kind of important that you can read and understand orders, and you can figure out, oh, this is how I do a fingerprint swab, or this is how I do a bugle swab. This guy can't even... Confirmation bias isn't like saying ipsi dixit or qui ceste custodis. It's not Latin. It's proper English words that someone who has gone to school and not flunked out should at least have a basic grasp on. Well, it's because they have to not say Trooper Proctor. So this is his big problem, and this guy can't think on his feet. Because if he tries to think on his feet, he will fall over because he'll forget how to keep his balance. Some police departments don't want people who score well on the IQ test. Well, in Denmark, you have there's a minimum requirement you have to reach. With the Romans, there was more lead exposure from lead pots and acidic foods, drinks, rather than lead from the water pipes. Yeah, I would think that as well, because, again, water running over the lead pipes, of course, there will be some degrading over the years, but would it be enough? And it was free-flowing water. It's not like it stood in reservoirs filled with lead. Maybe he brushed up his math and physics when they called him this time around. They're not going to call him. This is actually why we're watching it, because I'm guessing, but I think Dr. Welcher will be tomorrow. He's the guy that they hired to replace this guy. And I wanted to rewatch it to see why, and I understand why now.
Developing a conclusion and then trying to find evidence to fit that conclusion. Does that sound right?
If you say so.
You noted in your direct examination that there were scratches on the passenger side rear.
I would never... I bet you do better. Well, you don't make as much money probably like this guy does. But it's just the ineptitude of these troopers. It's people we trust with a lot of power. And they can't even understand basic English.
Bumper license, correct?
Yes.
I think 2 years.
How exactly were you able to scientifically determine that any of those scratches were from an incident on January 29th, 2022, as opposed to any other time?
I didn't have anything else on the time. I said that those scratches happened prior to this collision.
I'm sorry.
I didn't have any information that those scratches were caused from a prior collision. And so when I looked at the evidence, I knew it was in that same area, the right rear taillight. So when I looked at
if you don't meet the minimum at police academy, get kicked out.
it, it didn't quite fit the
To enter police academy, you'll have to do a written and a physical test. And if you don't meet the standard, you are not allowed to join.
Pedestrian thing. So when you showed me the video, or so I saw the video like a year ago on Court TV, I said that could be.
You asked the question, so next, keep going.
What video?
He's answering. Next
trying to-
question. Then
You guys
go
how
ahead.
scientifically
Hold on.
thought the scratches were.
Hold on. Ask
Sorry.
your question, Mr. Jackson.
You know what normal wear and tear on a vehicle is, right?
Yes.
Bumpers get scratched myriad ways, correct?
Correct.
Get scratched in a grocery store parking lot, right?
Yes.
Shopping cart can bounce off the back of the car and scratch the bumper, scratch the side of the car, quarter panel or something, right?
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to go through it, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands of ways that a car can get a scratch, correct?
Correct.
My question is, do you, as you sit here, do you have any scientific evidence that those scratches occurred on January 29th at approximately 12:45 a.m.?
What do you mean by scientific evidence?
Well, do you have any evidence whatsoever that you can point to that those scratches occurred on that date and at that time, rather than any other time in the history of that vehicle?
Like I said earlier, the video seems to appear that's what it looks like that could have been from.
Well, you said on Friday, let's talk about those scratches for a second. because
Yeah.
You testified Friday, you were pretty clear. You said that, if I can find it exactly.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. It's been going around.
I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Yeah, I can't with this guy. Just answer the effing question.
You said, quote, the dent and scratches for his hand could be, those are consistent with striking the Lexus. Remember saying that?
Yes, on the tailgate.
Okay, so the dent and scratches
No, he did say, what do you mean by scientific?
you talked about on Friday, you said it was from his hand.
Yes, hand in the glass cup.
Okay. Then are those the same scratches you're talking about in terms of the bumper?
No.
So,
What are you talking about? The scratch on the side of the bumper that we talked about?
correct.
Okay,
That's what I'm
no.
talking about. Okay. Is there any way to scientifically date a scratch?
No.
If you go out in the parking lot right now, even as an accident reconstructions, if you walk out in the parking lot right now and look at a Toyota Camry sitting there, it's got a scratch on it. There's no analysis that you can engage in to date that scratch, could you?
Objection.
So you can ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Is there any way that you could, in general, look at a scratch and say, that scratch is from such and such date?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Nothing more.
I'll allow it.
You cannot say. You can look at evidence and shows that it may have been older than what the newer evidence would be, but there's no way to say that specific date and time and that a scratch would come from.
Right. And it's possible that any or all of those scratches on the Lexus could have predated January 29th, correct?
No.
That's not possible.
The ones that are on from the taillight and the other parts of it
Scratches anywhere on the car.
depends on what you got to pick the other scratches. You got to show me other scratches on the car.
I'm saying it's possible, since you can't date the scratch, it's possible that any or all of those scratches could predate January 29th. It's a simple question, right? It's possible.
You're being pretty broad on your scratches here.
I'm not being brought it. Let me ask it a different way. Let me ask it again. Is it possible that any or all of the scratches that are noted on that car predate January 29th?
Any and all of the scratches? See, that's what I'm saying. You're being pretty broad. Any and all scratches on the car
Answer that question.
that it predate.
Objection.
I don't know every single scratch on that car. I could mean
Overruled. So can you answer that question?
no.
You testified that you noted glass on the rear bumper of the SUV, correct?
Yes.
And you said something about that glass coming from the cup.
Correct.
You also said that you did not see anything on that SUV that could be the source of those glass pieces on the bumper, right?
Yes.
When you did your reconstruction and your analysis, were you informed that none of the glass pieces, not one of them, could be matched to a cup?
I don't know anything about I don't know that.
So if you knew that the glass pieces on the bumper do not match the cup, does that change your opinion
Objection.
about that glass?
Can you answer that question?
I cannot.
You can't answer the question.
It's what was told to me as evidence
Got it. By whom?
by the crime scene.
Who told you?
As crime scene that was there, it says it's glass from the cup. When I did my initial inspection, that's what it was on from.
That's not what you just said. You said that's what was told to me.
Yeah, by crime. Yeah, I can see by crime scene. While I was at my inspection,
Wait, what?
it was told to me by the crime scene when I was at my inspection, at the initial inspection.
So what you meant by that's what was told to me is the crime scene talked to you.
Yes.
Crime scene say anything else?
I don't know what else you want me to say.
Do you know that meme with the dumpster fire going down the river? This is this guy. I know what he means. He means that people from crime scene, because that's an investigative unit, told me. But his grasp of the English language is so bad that even Plevin's book is written better-ish in English than what this guy is doing.
Did Trooper Proctor tell you that those pieces of glass on the bumper are somehow associated with the cup?
No,
Just the crime scene told you.
correct.
But if you knew that the crime scene was incorrect, and in fact those glass pieces don't match the cup, would that change your opinion?
Objection.
Sustained.
Would it change your opinion in any way if you knew that the
Yes, such a
glass pieces
snark.
do not
Oh,
match the cup?
did crime scene
Objection.
tell you anything else?
Can you answer that question?
No,
I'm sorry. No, you
don't. I don't. Ooh. It's glass from a cup. It's glass. It's not. It doesn't belong to the vehicle.
Right.
It's glass.
But if I told you it didn't match that cup,
What?
what's your opinion?
Objection.
Does that change your opinion?
Are we talking? Which cup? We never established which cup we're talking about.
How many cups have we been talking about, Trooper?
You said that cup. One from the scene. Okay.
That cup. I'm talking.
I just want to make sure that we're on the clear path here. On the clear what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay. All I said,
It was
it's
found next to John O'Keefe's body in the snow at 34 Fairview on January 29th, 2022. You got the cup in mind?
yes.
Okay. That's the cup. When I say cup, that's the cup.
Okay.
Would it change your opinion if I told you?
I actually think that Trooper Paul could understand Plevin's book. I think they are about on the same level.
That the glass pieces on the bumper don't match that cup.
What's my opinion on it? All I said was glass from a cup. That's the only opinion I have. It's glass from a cup that was on a bumper.
Are you saying a cup?
A cup. A cup. It's not glass from the car.
Well,
That was my
I
opinion on
like
it.
B cup at least.
I didn't never said it matched to the scene.
You did.
I never said that in my thing. I said it's glass from a cup.
Yeah,
Okay.
get that stress drink in you.
It's safe to say you didn't do any testing to determine the forces necessary to.
Shannon wasn't the guy who did this. Dr. Wiltshire will be the guy who did this, I think. But he's also the guy who will do the. Remember when Trooper Garino, wasn't it Trooper Garino who did the keystrokes? Oh no, this was the guy who did the keystrokes. Oh, it's gonna be fun.
Shatter a taillight on a 2021 Lexus 570, correct?
I did not do testing.
Your report indicates, we talked about this a little bit, I'm gonna go back to something we talked about earlier this morning. Your report indicates that John O'Keefe came into his final resting place about 7 feet from the roadway, and that's what you based your diagram on, correct?
Yes.
Who told you that number?
I measured it from my diagram.
You should say that again?
I measured it from the diagram.
Okay, what I'm asking is how did it get on the diagram? In other words, who told you that his body was 7 feet from the roadway?
Well, wait, I was told by Lieutenant, was it Gallagher? Paul Gallagher, Captain PT.
Thank you, Lynn Dalton, for 14 months. Wow, I forgot how bad this is. This is absolutely horrendous. And still, this is the thing I want you all to remember, because sadly, 12 people went into a room and couldn't agree that she didn't hit John O'Keefe, that she didn't do a manslaughter, and she didn't leave a crime scene. Because what evidence? Well, she was drunk. Yeah, so what? One of the things you need for the OVI operating while intoxicated is that she has to be recklessly driving. We know from the witnesses who saw her that she was even so compos mentis that she used her turn signals. To me, that doesn't seem like someone who's drunk and recklessly driving. I know the aunties will say, well, she was so drunk, she hit it in reverse and just slammed the... But she's clear-headed enough that she makes a 3-point turn, not going everywhere in everyone's front yard, and she used the turn signal. What I really want you all to remember is 12 people couldn't agree on finding her not guilty, even with these witnesses. Just let me be the one who rains on everyone's parade when they sit and say, oh, this is retarded. Sadly, so are jurors sometimes.
He told me this is where the body was found.
Okay.
So I used my devices to mark that location.
Okay, but before you used your devices, he just pointed someplace on the ground and said he was about here, correct?
That's correct.
Did Lieutenant Gallagher tell you that Lieutenant Gallagher never saw John O'Keefe in place at the scene? Did he say that?
No.
Did Lieutenant Gallagher tell you that the first officer on the scene estimated his body at being approximately 15 to 20 feet from the roadway?
No.
If he had told you that, then it changed your diagram?
Objection.
Overruled.
He told me this is where he's found. I marked that location. That's all that was.
And you marked basically every other piece of item. Sorry, that was a terrible question. Every other item you marked based on a distance from where you were told John O'Keefe's body came to rest, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was by Lieutenant Gallagher just pointing at the ground and saying it was about here.
Correct.
Was there a single member of the team that was out when you were being shown where the body came to rest?
Potentially, yes, there was someone who, but again, also remember what we were told. They went from what was it, 8-4 to 10-2 or something like that, 6-3. I can't remember. People wanted to change it to a guilty, and all because, well, she was drunk. What do you base it on? Well, we saw a video where someone told us she had 9 drinks. It's never trust the jury.
Is there a single member of that team who actually said they saw John O'Keefe's body in place?
Objection.
Thank you, Jim Cox, for becoming a member.
What do you mean team? Canton PD?
Whoever was there, who was there with you when you started doing your measurements, et cetera?
It's Lieutenant Gallagher. That's who.
Just you and him?
And myself and I was training a trooper at the time. She was there.
You were training a trooper at the time?
Yes.
Okay, so my mistake. I assumed that there were several people out there.
It's not
Just you and
trooper.
Lieutenant Gallagher.
Yes, that's why I was confused by the team.
All right. And again, Lieutenant Gallagher didn't tell you that he never saw John O'Keefe's body in place.
No, I don't think so.
You did document in your report that the items that you noted on your diagram that we just looked at a few minutes ago, those were found by the CERT team, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated in your report that the members of the CERT team located a single Nike sneaker that was noted on your report. Is that right? On your
Correct.
diagram.
Yes.
You also indicated that, quote, in the same area, 2 red plastic pieces and 1 clear piece of plastic of a taillight was discovered.
Yes.
So your report is clear that in total, the items discovered by the CERT team on January 29th.
I heard this is a younger jury. Do you think this will make a difference? No. Because I know, I think Nan shared on Twitch that they look to be more concentrating when Alessi and Jackson was asking questions. But I remember hearing the same at the last trial, and it didn't change a thing. This is why I say people who will tell you that they can read body language, it's BS. I know she saw them do notes and look more concentrated, but is it because they believe that, oh, this is really good evidence, or I don't buy this, oh, he's lying about this again? It's hard to tell what the jury is thinking. And if it's a younger group, what does that change? In reality, look at the young people around you. Some of the young people I see around me, I would absolutely hate to have a jury duty with. I've had, I think, 4 or 5 younger people as co-jurors in Denmark. One of them was and don't take this against anything, you can have whatever political belief you want to have. She was a bleeding heart liberal who was there to do politics, not to do justice. And she just didn't want to listen. And we had to talk to her in a very long time because she wanted the rules to be changed, but that's not our job. You go into politics to change the rules. The rest of them have been okay. One of them was really nervous. Maybe it's because it was a murder case and we saw some really bad pictures, but she was really nervous when we had to leave court because she was afraid he was going to get her, even though he was going straight to jail. But I don't know if younger people are smarter or more in tune or listen better or understands better. I think you can be just as good at 75 as you can at 25. It depends on where are you in life. I think what really means something is your lived experiences. What have you seen in life? If you've just gone to school all life, you don't know what's going on out in the real world. If you've been out working since you were 9, you would have a way different view on everything. So I can't tell you if a jury with 50-50 men and women is good, 50-50 young and old is good. Ethnic, racial, religious, I don't think it matters. And you can see it in voting blocks as well. It depends. Maybe they can understand tech issues a little bit better, but no one understands any of the tech stuff in this case, except not a Russian bot. But I think he's a little touched. But because I don't understand, and sadly, they will be bringing back Dr. Green, or Mr. Green, who I think is a horrible expert. Not because he doesn't know his stuff, but because he can't communicate it.
We're a shoe, right?
Yes.
A partial glass cup broken, correct?
Well, it was that on there. I can't remember if that's on their diagram or if that's what I was told at the scene, but yes,
Sure.
yes.
You knew that the cup was found.
Yes.
You were told the cup was
But if you go to college and you're studying because you want to go to DC and work for a politician, I think you trust the system a lot. I don't think you can tell by age.
found.
Yes.
And 3 pieces of plastic, 2 red, 1 clear.
Yes.
Not 5 pieces of plastic, correct?
Correct.
You then
Yeah,
measure those items,
that's
is that right?
redonkulous.
I didn't. What do you mean measure them? Like
Measure
at
them
this?
relative to John O'Keefe's final place of rest. 10 feet from it, 12 feet from it. We're going to go over the numbers.
Yes, I used their report to place those items onto my diagram.
So, and then I'm going to get to that question in just a second. I want to make sure that we walk through it sort of methodically. You then use some calculation, some tool or something to measure distances. Like there's where I assume John O'Keefe's body was. Here's the final rest place. I'm going to use that as point A, and then I'm going to measure from there and go 7 feet to where the shoe was found, or the first red plastic piece was found, or whatever, right?
Yes.
Who told you where the pieces were found?
They were in Lieutenant Tolley's report. He put measurements in his report.
Okay. And you noted that the shoe was 9 feet.
Yes.
Put that in your diagram.
Correct.
You noted that the glass cup was 1 foot from John O'Keefe's body, correct?
Correct.
1 foot is about that long, right?
Yes. It was. They basically said it was found next to him.
Right.
Yes.
A piece of red plastic 7 feet from John O'Keefe's body, correct?
Correct.
A clear plastic piece 10 feet from John O'Keefe's body, right?
Yes.
And a red plastic piece 12 feet from John O'Keefe's body, correct?
Correct.
I would rather have a guy who is less proficient with the knowledge, but is a better communicator, than I would have a guy who can tell you where the ones and the zeros fit together and why that means, because no one understands that. That's why when we rewatched Scotty Bello on Friday, I believe we did it, I really liked the way that she visualized, oh, this is the part of the brain where the bleeding was, and then you have this part, and I really like that in an expert, because remember, the expert is there to translate it to the layperson. They are not there to talk to another expert who will come and do the rebuttal. They are there to translate it to the jury, so the jury will think, oh, I feel smart now.
What part of his body were you measuring from?
Like center of mass.
So he's 6'2".
Yes.
Did Lieutenant Gallagher tell you where his center mass was?
No, I measured from. He just said he was here, so I tried to put like where his head, where his feet, and try to measure the middle between those two.
So ultimately, because Lieutenant Gallagher was not at the scene when he was found, Lieutenant Gallagher had to sort of guess where the body was found, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You had no photographs of John O'Keefe in place, correct?
Correct.
There were no establishing shots, and there were no perspective shots, correct?
Correct.
There were no relative shots, meaning this is relative to that, and I can measure that and figure out distances, correct?
What, like from the picture?
Yeah, so you know how that's done in science, right? You want to find out a relative position of something, so you take 2 or 3 or 4 shots. You know that something is never going to move, like, I don't know, a flagpole. You can measure from there.
Sure.
You get cross coordinates, right?
Sure.
Left and right, and where the 2 coordinates match, that's where the item is, right?
Correct.
None of that was done, right?
From the pictures?
None of that was done to do your measurements.
I use, like I said, I used the measurements from. I measured on my diagram in itself, and I measured from those points off my diagram.
Right, Trooper, but the starting point was a guess, wasn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you have to sort of guess at where you thought John O'Keefe's body was?
I didn't guess where his body was.
Did you guess at his center of mass?
Objection.
Did you guess?
I did not guess.
Next question.
You did guess because you didn't have any way of establishing a final resting place for John O'Keefe's body. That is a guess. Your whole theory is flawed with mistakes like this.
You stated in your report that you Google mapped Miss Reed's path of travel. Well, let me ask you a different question. If I could withdraw that question with court permission.
Yes.
Your diagram has all those arrows pointing at specific locations. Very, very specific, very thin arrows pointing, correct?
Yes.
If you start off with an incorrect assumption about where John O'Keefe's body was, right? Hypothetically, if you were to start off with an incorrect assumption where John O'Keefe's body was, every single item that you note on that diagram would then be off as well, wouldn't it?
Objection.
Is that true?
I mean, I guess hypothetically, depends on how off you want to be.
And the answer is yes, correct?
Hypothetically.
You stated in your report that you Google mapped Miss Reed's path of travel
It doesn't depend how
January
off you want to
29th
be.
based on what you determined to be, quote, it's likely the two, and
You
you
don't
said,
want to be off, you're there
it's,
to
quote, it's
prove
likely that the
something.
two events, meaning the triggering events, occurred at the same time the Lexus was at 34 Fairview at the time of the collision, correct?
Yes.
The first triggering event is what? Was it a 3-point turn or a U-turn? I thought I heard you say both.
I guess it would be more, 3-point turns, essentially. I guess it's a 3-point turn.
Okay.
Yes.
What did you say U-turn on Friday? I just want to hear that.
It could have been the U-turn. I mean, it's still turning around. So you got to make a U-turn when it's a 3-point turn or not, but it's still.
Okay, but I mean, not to be picky, but it's for my job.
Okay.
A U-turn, traveling in one direction, turn, right? Turning the wheel, never changing gear, and so it's reverse or anything, just turn, right? A 3-point turn requires moving forward, stopping, changing gears, moving backward, stopping, changing gears, using the steering input, and then moving off, correct?
Correct.
Well, those are two very different maneuvers, right? You'd agree?
It's, in a sense, I was trying to say she made a U-turn. Like you can say they made a U-turn. It's a 3-point turn. They're still making a U-turn. And I didn't mean it as like she literally had to make a direct U-turn. She was turning around. And obviously the diagram, or the trigger shows a 3-point turn.
Well, I mean, I guess you could have said reversing direction, right?
That would have been a better way to say it, yes.
You didn't say that. You said U-turn. So are you changing your testimony from Friday that it was a 3-point turn, or could it possibly have been a U-turn? Which is it?
It's a 3-point turn.
Okay, because you have evidence of the starting, stopping, changing gears, reversing, stopping, changing gears, turning.
That's correct.
So when you said U-turn, that was inaccurate.
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Let's get back to the path of travel when you began your analysis. How did you know what the Lexus's path of travel was that day?
I got the directions from Trooper Proctor.
And what did Trooper Proctor tell you in terms of the path of travel specifically? Starting point and an ending point, tell you the exact path. Lexus travel?
No, they just, all I got was mostly just the addresses.
Okay, so if you've got 2 points on a map, and Trooper Proctor told you the Lexus traveled from point A to point B, there are multiple ways to get from point A to point B. You agree with that, right?
Yes.
You picked one of those, right? The path of travel includes freeways, etc., right?
Yes.
But as you sit here, you don't know what her actual path of travel was, because it could have been something different, right?
It could have been something. That's why I gave a range on my diagram.
Do you have any scientific evidence to establish what her actual path of travel is, or did you just guess at the path of travel?
I got the addresses from Trooper Proctor. I put them into the thing, and and one of the possibilities of 36 miles, and that was after looking at all of them, at 36 miles is a possibility.
Right, understood. So that's what I'm trying to get to, Trooper Paul.
Okay.
That's one possibility. There's 36 miles,
Mhm.
one route of travel, right?
Correct.
There are other possibilities, right?
Yes.
So between and among the possibility that you picked and the other possibilities, you just sort of have to guess. And there's no science to it. You just said, I'm going to pick that and put it in my report, right?
No, that's not how that works.
Okay, why don't you tell me how that works?
Her odometer mileage on the car from the download and the time we had the vehicle shows 36 miles. So when I plugged those addresses into Google, it came up as 36 miles as a possibility.
And you knew that there was another route of travel to the same location, correct?
What do you mean?
There were alternative routes of travel to the same 2 points, from and to the same points, correct?
Yes. Yes.
You could have tried to extract the location data from the street's cell phone to determine the exact route of travel, correct?
I don't know. I don't have access to do cell phone extractions.
So that answers my next question. You did not even attempt to do that, did you?
No.
You did attempt to analyze the key cycles for the Lexus in order to determine the placement of that vehicle. You just talked about that with Mr. Lauper, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Byron Butterfield, for becoming a YouTube member. And watch out for Zach. I'm not saying he's a little bit touchy-feely, but he's a little bit touchy-feely. Broken English is his only language. Jamie always talked about the defense dementia that hits these cops. They're not there to win the case. They're just there to give the facts, but they can't remember anything when the defense asks them. It's so effing annoying.
I want to be clear for the jurors because most people have probably never heard of key cycles. A key cycle does not have any location data associated with it whatsoever, does it?
Correct.
It just shows you when a vehicle is turned on, ignition is on, and off. That's one cycle, correct?
No.
Tell me what I've got wrong.
Key cycle, the car doesn't have to be turned on.
Say that again.
It goes from off to run. The engine doesn't have to be started to off.
Understood. So if it turns on, well, every single...
He didn't say turn it on. He said on, which is just doesn't mean the engine had to be started. Why did you have to try and correct him?
Ignition is a key cycle. Every time the engine turns on, that's absolutely a key cycle. Once it's turned off again, right?
That gets recorded as an ignition cycle.
Right. So a key cycle can be an ignition cycle.
Well,
but it doesn't.
There will be a break, but
also can be just
it's going to be an hour or so. Yeah,
maybe
more.
Right?
The key cycle is to turn the accessories on.
All right. But it doesn't. My question was, where we started with this conversation, is it does not have any location data on it whatsoever.
Correct.
All right. So when you drive your car, you walk out, get in the car, turn the ignition on, start to drive, get to your location, turn it off. That's one key cycle, right?
One ignition cycle.
But and I'm going to use the word key cycles because you use the word key cycles in your report. That's what we're talking about.
I'm using that because that's how the trigger was read.
That's how what?
The triggers were read on the text stream. That's how they read them. Key cycles.
By key cycles.
Yes.
I'm going to use that phrase key cycle.
Okay.
We're talking about the same thing. It's an ignition on, ignition off cycle.
Doesn't have to be on.
Back off.
So you mean the engine doesn't have to be turned on?
Thank you so much, Krista, for the 10 corner kisses over on Buy Me a Coffee. And the rest I will keep to myself. But thank you so very, very much. And I will try and have a great trip if the striking people in Helsinki won't ruin my trip. But hopefully, I will be in Los Estados Unidos in 1 week, and I can't do the math for that. I think like 8 hours. Oh, yeah. 6 hours. In 1 week and 6 hours, I should be in Los Estados Unidos and have a wonderful week if I don't get stuck in Helsinki. But thank you so much, Krista.
Correct.
Right. But if you're seeing triggering events, not trying to be tricky here, you're seeing triggering events, your car's in motion, what does that tell you? The ignition's on or off?
The ignition's on.
Right. That's what I'm getting to. But it has no location data associated with whatsoever. It could be here, it could be in Wyoming. The car wouldn't know the difference. It's not to report the difference to you, correct?
On the key cycle,
Correct.
or just the key cycle. The key cycle does not give out locations.
Say that again?
The key cycle does not give a location.
Right. So your analysis is trying to go from a known key cycle that you can figure out and then work backward from there to try to figure out where the car was on a particular ignition cycle or key cycle, correct?
I didn't use the key cycle to put it back.
Say that again?
I did not use the key cycle to place the car back in its location. The key cycles were, all I got from the key cycles is that they occurred close within proximity to the time we've had the vehicle, not basically saying that this was the location based off the key cycle.
Well, let's look at Exhibit 591 with the court's permission.
Okay.
Did you testify on Friday that this is a copy of the exhibit that's put in 591? This is part of your report, correct?
Yes, it is.
And this is a chart that shows when this arrow, that arrow indicates top and bottom where your testing occurred, correct?
Yes.
Well, because if I did the same trip with SAS, I think they had me at 27,000 Danish, which is 200 million Norwegian. British Airways had the same trip for 8,500. So I wouldn't, well, and also because they made all of my stocks in SAS worthless last year, so I have no loyalty anymore.
And you move over to the left, that is key cycle what?
I like
1154.
Right. So you've testified, and we can turn the lights on. You're all right. I don't mind if that stays up. You can turn the lights on. I don't think it hurts anything. You stated in your report that there were, quote, 2 triggers recorded on odometer 12,629 and key cycle 1162, correct?
Yes.
These events were prior to the testing triggers on odometer readings 12665/12666 and at key cycle 1160. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're saying in that report is the triggering events were 1162, going in reverse in order. 1162 comes before 1164. They're numerical. Is that right?
Yes.
Every single key cycle just tags another number on top of it, right? There's no formula.
Correct.
After 1 comes 2, after 2 comes 3, 4, 5, 6, and then move on, right?
Yes.
So by the time you got the vehicle, there had been 1,164 key cycles on the history of that car, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you knew, you put in your report, the triggering events that you see under 1164, those are yours. And clear that you recorded, that you talked to Mr. Lally about, were 2.
How the hell is this so stupid now?
Yes.
Meaning ignition cycles, at least, right?
Yes.
Stated in your report, well, let me finish.
What the hell's going on?
Was exactly 2 key cycles, right?
Yes.
1164, 1163, 1162. That's the triggering events, correct?
That's correct.
You also reiterated in your report in paragraph 23, 24, 26, and 29, and also in this exhibit in your car's report, that the triggers occurred at key cycle 1162, right?
Yes.
You were assisted in your car's report. I think you mentioned Trooper Zach Clark. Is that right?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor.
Well, I have to say it's premium economy because I flew economy last time, and I'm a big guy. I can't sit squished up like that for 9 hours. So I splurged a little bit on myself and bought an upgrade to premium economy, which ended up costing me less than, I think, like 1,000 Danish more than I paid for my economy seat last time. So hopefully I won't be as beat up when I arrived.
You're assisted to a certain degree, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Carol Lorini, is that right?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Also,
All
Sergeant
you
Sam,
rumblers.
Sean Good, Kent
There's
PD,
12 of
assisted
you
as
over
well,
there.
correct?
Yes, in a sense.
Did they all read the report before it was finalized?
No.
Did you have any supervisor read the report before it was finalized?
Yes.
And he agreed with the assessments in the report?
Yes.
So
I
in
hope
summary,
it is.
everybody that read the report and you, who authored the report, believed, and it's reflected in that report, that key cycle 1162 contained the two triggers that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
That's the 3-point turn, I guess now a 3-point turn, right? Changing direction, and then the reverse at 24 miles per hour, correct?
Correct.
And you even went on and testified to that exact thing under oath in front of the state grand jury, correct?
Oh,
Yes.
my.
Wait, hold on. I need the text streams?
On the key cycles.
Not in grand jury.
Okay. Testified to it on direct examination on Friday and again this morning.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, they're going with. I think we counted it last time that there was 5 or I have in my head. I always think of the number 11, 5 or 11 missing key cycles. If you do all the testing and count backwards, and they want to put it at 1162, it's really, really wrong. Happy Memorial Day, everyone, from Kathy Michael. Thank you for being here a month. I do believe AJ debunked the 1162. Yeah, but I think we said and yelled about it last year because we counted backwards from this is when we tested the car. This is when, and we found out that that entire period where she drives she drives around that morning. She drives back to a family's house. They drive it on the tow truck. They drive it off the tow truck. They drive it into the garage. They drive it out of the garage, and they do the testing. I believe we had like 5 or I don't know why 11 just keeps popping with these key cycles. Maybe it's wrong, but it just didn't mathing. It didn't line up at all. Oh yeah, Kathy Daffy said yesterday, this case is just like the Sarah Boone if she just had a suitcase because it's a clear domestic violence case. And I saw my favorite rant time. As you know, I'm a big fan of Julie, whatever her name is, over on Court TV. She had an expert on to talk about how this is a DV case because they were fighting in the car. Can anyone point me to anywhere in this case or in the first case trial where we have had any evidence provided that John O'Keefe and Karen Reed was fighting in the car on the way from the bar to Fairview? She stated in one interview, I think, I can't remember the name, Howie Carr or whoever she talked to, that they had been fighting. But that was in relation to earlier that day. But Julie Grant, who is the lead anchor on Court TV that puts themselves out as an unbiased news source, court source, whatever you'll call it, she keeps going with this without any proof. And she keeps spewing this story all over her viewers. That Karen and John was fighting in the car. I think she used to be a lawyer, but this is such a disgenerous way of presenting the case. Karen Reed clearly meant in relation to they had been fighting earlier in the day over him being angry she treated his kids too well. But this lady will go on and say, well, they were fighting. She probably punched him in the face. Court TV, I know you want a lady who has a certain look because every female anchor looks the same way on every American television station. But you can do better. You can do better than this. This is kind of like one of those morning shows, and I don't care if it's Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or whatever news channel you watch it on. It's just rank speculation. But she sits there and says, well, they were fighting. You have absolutely no proof. It's an opinion you have. But the people who sadly turns into court TV to watch coverage of this case will be fed lies by the lead anchor. It's bad enough that you have Plevin as an expert and you have that John DePetro, whatever his name is. You even had crusty panties on. Why not a humble Danish baker? I'm not as stupid as Krusty. I know that. And I don't know if anyone watched it, Plevin's panel show yesterday. 500 viewers. Amazing. Krusty sounded kind of like, I don't know. She sounded like she needed some sleep, that she had been up for a long time. But court TV, I know you don't watch. Well, I think they have been here once or twice. You should do better. Tell Julie that if she's presenting the case, she should be unbiased. She can have an opinion show just like Vinny. There she can shoot all the BS she wants as long as it's presented as her opinion. But she presents it as facts, which is... Sorry. We are all mad here. Yeah. Julie Grant is how speculation becomes rumors and false beliefs. She is the one who turns one feather into 5 chickens. Well, me and Plevin would need that. Yeah, our retirement age is 70 years now, because we need to pay for all the good stuff.
If your testing occurred at
Not in this case. Oh my God.
key cycle 1164, that means you turn the engine on, the ignition on to start your testing, correct?
Correct.
And that triggering event that we see up there at 1164 initiated your testing, all right?
Yes.
So that 1164 is where that's where there's no more unknowns, in other words. Right? You know exactly where the car is, who's in the car, who turned the car on, and what the triggering events were and what they reflected, because you did it, correct?
Correct.
It's you.
Yes.
So that would be the cornerstone, basically, of your entire analysis of key cycles.
Say again.
The cornerstone, in other words, the one known that is immovable, it's immutable, is 1164 began your testing. Is that right?
Objection.
Is that right? I'm going to allow the question.
Yeah, that's when the car was in state custody.
All right. So starting at 1164 and jumping backward, before you started your testing, you know that the SUV had to be started, the ignition had to be turned over, and it was driven to the Sally Port in Canton at 5:31 p.m. from a tow truck on January 29th, correct?
I didn't know that.
You did or did not?
Did not know that.
Okay. Assuming that the car had to be started and put on a tow truck, that would be key cycle what?
I don't know how. I can't speak to the fact that recorded a key cycle at that time.
I can't do it.
I can't speak to the fact that we would record a key cycle at that time.
Okay. If the car was turned on and driven onto a tow truck, would that be a key cycle?
I don't know, because these keys record different ways, so I can't speak to how or why it did not record on there. All I can speak to is that those are the key cycles. The odometer mileage is more what I was going after on this whole thing.
Trooper Paul, you just said unequivocally, when a car is turned on and then turned off, there's a key cycle.
I said when the car without the ignition on, that's a key cycle.
Correct.
That's correct.
That's what I mean, when it's turned on, when the engine turns on.
That's the definition of what it is. I can't speak to why I didn't go on, why I did not record.
Well, let's talk about the ignition cycles.
Okay.
Before 1164. Okay.
Okay.
Obviously, the car had to get to Canton PD because you saw it there, correct?
Correct.
Assume for purposes of my question, the car was turned on, and there's a video of it turning on, driving up onto a flatbed tow truck.
Yes.
That would be ignition cycle, I'm gonna use your word, key cycle, ignition cycle, 1163, correct?
Again, ignition cycle, key cycles are two different things.
Which word do you want me to use?
If you want to talk about key cycles, key cycles. You want to talk about ignition cycles, it's ignition cycles when the vehicle gets turned on. A key cycle does not mean to be turned on.
But every single ignition cycle includes a key cycle. You can't have an ignition cycle without a key cycle, correct?
Well, if you want to talk about just use the key cycles or ignition cycles. I'm trying to make sure this gets out. I'm trying to make sure that this gets put out the correct way.
Every ignition cycle includes a key cycle, correct?
In a sense,
By definition, it has to, right?
it doesn't have to. They record multiple different ways.
You can have an ignition cycle without a key cycle.
I don't know how it recorded, but it could happen.
Explain that. How could that possibly happen?
Because a key cycle is when it turns on, not engine running, and then turns off.
Okay, so work with me here.
Ignition cycle is when it turns on, engine running for 2 seconds, and then comes off.
Okay, so
Or the 2 seconds is not on long enough, it might not record one.
okay, let's ignore the 2 seconds.
Okay.
That's not what we're doing.
Okay.
All right. Let's assume that it's an old-fashioned type of key.
Okay.
Halfway on, the electricity is on. It's like it used to be called ACC.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That's a key cycle, correct?
For that intents and purpose, yes. This vehicle's not a key cycle. It's not a
If you
thing.
keep turning,
Okay.
He keeps trying
That
to
turns
talk
the
over
engine
him
on,
because he's
right?
so
It
stupid.
turns engine on, correct?
that's an ignition cycle, right?
Yes. Well, then turns off.
Single ignition cycle necessarily includes the precursor key cycle, correct? Even though every key cycle might not include an ignition cycle. Would you agree with that?
In that scenario, yes.
Fine. Okay, with that definition, I'm going to talk about ignition cycles because I don't want to get confused about accessories. Just assume the engine.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
If you started your testing at 1164, then if the engine was turned on, thereby initiating a key cycle, driving the car onto a flatbed truck, and then hauling it over to Canton PD, that would be key cycle 1163 in that hypothetical, correct?
It could be.
Okay. Then going backward from there, if the SUV was, I'm sorry, let me add one event that I just forgot. It had to get off the tow truck in Canton and be driven into the Sally Port. Did you ever see that video?
No.
Being driven in?
No.
If there was a video showing that the car was actually driven into the Sally Port, that would necessarily be a key cycle, correct?
Possibly.
Okay, so that would be key cycle 1163. My mistake, I was missing one, right?
Okay.
Before that, if the car was turned on and driven onto the flatbed to get to Canton, that would be key cycle 1162 in order, correct? We're going backward.
It's possible.
All right. Before that, if the car was started and the car was driven from One Meadows Avenue to Karen Reed's parents' home in Dighton, that would be another key cycle, 1161, correct?
They're possible.
Before that, if the SUV was started and driven by Miss Reed from the garage at John O'Keefe's house to Jennifer McCabe's house at 5:07 in the morning, that would be another key cycle, correct? 1160. Is that right?
It's possible.
And before that, if the SUV was started and driven by Ms. Reed to the waterfall, from the waterfall to 34 Fairview at approximately 12:15 a.m., that would be another key cycle, 1159, right?
It's possible.
I want to be clear. The reason that these numbers skip in your diagram, they don't go directly in order, right? Not every single number is in order on this left-hand column, because this is only a diagram of when triggering events occur, right?
Yes.
Something unusual about the operation of the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And it's clear that from the data, there was no triggering event at key cycle 1159, was there?
Crime Scene is a cunning linguist. Sheen is a cunning linguist.
No.
So assuming the driving events that I just told you, right? Assuming for purposes of my question, that the driving events started at 11:59, driving over to 34 Fairview from the waterfall. Then driving at 5:07 in the morning over to Jen McCabe's house, 11:60. Then driving to Dighton, her parents' house, 11:61. Then the car being seized, indictment.
I would be a cycle.
1162. Then the car being taken off the flatbed and driven into the Sally Port, Canton, 1163. Your testing starts at 1164. That would mean that at 1162, that key cycle would include the time in which Trooper Proctor had possession of that car, correct?
No.
Assuming my hypothetical.
Your hypothetical?
Yes.
If that's hypothetically how it works, then yes.
Then what?
If that's hypothetically how it works, then yes.
On June 9th, 2022, you were asked by a grand jury whether you knew or had done any scientific testing to determine the distance a body would actually travel struck by a vehicle. Remember that?
Not that specifically. Not in that way.
Do you remember answering that you had not, I'm just paraphrasing, that you had not done you hadn't finished your report yet?
Hey,
Why
Peter,
don't you
been
show
a
him? He
second.
said he didn't remember it that way.
He does it all the time. Could be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Take a look at middle of the page. Your answer starts at about line 12, but the question above it is probably informative. You have that in mind?
Yep.
May I approach?
Yes.
You were asked, does that remind you that you were asked by a grand jury if you could calculate how far a body would move having been struck by a vehicle?
Yes.
And you indicated, quote, yeah, there's certain calculations we can do with that, but figure out if the car backed up, hit somebody, and then they go a certain amount of distance, and it's based on miles per hour, the speed of the vehicle, the striking vehicle, and stuff. Remember saying that?
Yes.
What do you mean by stuff?
I don't know.
You said that the calculations would be based on miles per hour and stuff. Did you ever do any stuff to test that? Grand jury's question.
No, we cannot calculate anything from this collision.
Say that one more time.
We cannot calculate anything from this collision.
Who's we?
I mean, no, sorry, me, the role me.
Well, you know John O'Keefe's weight, right?
What's that?
You know John O'Keefe's weight, 217 pounds, right?
Yes.
And
You know that?
stuff.
I don't know his weight, no.
You don't.
You know the weight of the vehicle?
Yes.
What's the weight of the vehicle, gross weight?
What's the gross weight?
Yeah.
I think it's approximately 7,300 pounds.
Were you able to calculate the mass of the vehicle?
I did not calculate the mass of the vehicle.
Well, you told the grand jury that you were planning on doing that kind of stuff to calculate how far a person would travel being struck at that speed.
No, he just remembered he can't name Proctor. I'm betting that's why he used the royal we.
With a car of that weight. You didn't do those calculations?
No, because the calculations would vastly underestimate the speed of the vehicle.
You testified, again, my report isn't done yet. I'm going to look into it. I'm looking into all that stuff, end quote, correct?
Yes.
There's that word again. It's been more than 2 years since that statement at the grand jury. Is your report finished?
Yes, it is.
Did you engage in any of those calculations?
I looked into it. This type of collision I would not be able to use the formulas for this type of collision.
Well, let's talk about those formulas. How would you calculate how far a body at rest would travel after being struck by an object in motion? How would you calculate that?
In pedestrian collisions, I use a Searle formula, Searle throw formula.
What formula?
Searle.
What does that mean?
It's a type of formula.
Well, he will just say, no, I didn't break the sequestration order, and nothing will happen to him because Bev will say, oh, that's nice. Thank you so much for not breaking the sequestration order. Because he will be asked, did you talk to Burgess? And he, nope. And even if you had pictures of them talking, he will say, nope. And who's going to bring the charges against him? The DA. Who is he going to lie on behalf of? The DA. It's just like every time people are saying, well, that's perjury. No, it's only perjury if you're not lying in a way the state likes it. Just, I'm still so pissed off with the Harmony Montgomery settlement yesterday. Oh, not yesterday, 2 days ago. That absolutely Thunder KUNT, who got $2.3 million, who never took care of her own kid and didn't start missing her till a couple of years later. The amount of perjury done in that case was fantastic, but it was all on behalf of the state, so it'll be fine. They even used perjury charges to force Kayla to testify against Adam. And I bet you she lied about how much she was involved in it. No, they can't. There's a sequestration orders. They're not allowed to talk to each other. And that's the problem. If he has the updated timeline, they have talked to each other. I landed flat on my back on railroad tires. No concussion, torn ligaments in my knees. Still had my shoes on. My cousin was hit by a car running 65 miles. She flew over 100 feet and was knocked out of shoes. Oh, I hope they're well. I'll just close the poll. Yes, for the Bar Association in Norfolk County. The rumor is she was given the Person of the Year because of all the criticism she had online. So kind of in Denmark, we would say as a Band-Aid on the wound, because she had such a tough year.
That would use for a calculation of post-impact
So
or speeds of pedestrians.
that includes certain principles of physics to calculate that, right?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by certain forms of physics?
There would be physics calculations that would be required to figure out how far a body at rest would move, having been struck by an object in motion. Right? That's a basic principle.
Yeah, I guess you could say.
All right. Can you describe for the jurors exactly what calculations you would need to employ to determine how far a body at rest would travel, having been struck by an object in motion?
So, in this scenario, in this collision, it's more of a sideswipe. So he did not sustain. He did not get enough speed of the vehicle post impact with the vehicle to be able calculations. His center of mass was offset from the vehicle, so we would vastly underestimate his speed. So that's why I did not do a formula. If he was more in line with behind the vehicle, he would have been projected forward, and using that projection forward, he would have been able to get more closer to the actual speed of the vehicle during that post impact travels.
Well,
but again, sweet Paul, it's not that hard. Your calculation is quite simple because you know where he was found, you know how much he weighed, you know the speed, you know the weight. So you just have to figure this out if it makes sense that he was thrown in there. Because if this doesn't make sense, you as a crass reconstructionist need to call Trooper Paul and say, hey, I did the math. It doesn't line up. It doesn't matter if you wanted to say he was going in that direction or in that direction, because he wasn't. You have your point where he landed. You have the point where you claim it happened. Then you just have to put in these three factors: the weight of the vehicle, the speed of the vehicle, and the weight of the body, and the distance it flew. If it doesn't add up, it's actually what your job is to go back and say, our theory we've been working on, it can't fit. Because this would be way too fast or way too slow to project him in that direction. And I don't know. this is a thing that might not have gotten into America yet, but let me propose something drastically. This will be very drastic. You take the same 24.3, 7,300 pounds and 220, and then you do different calculations to see which one of these aligns with the result of A, which is most reasonable. You can do that. I know it's very, very, very European that you can do more than one thing. I know you have to say, because there's so much overtime being paid out in Massachusetts that you really can't spend it on calculators. But when you plug it into the computer, just put 3 angles of impact and see if they line up. It's not that hard. I bet you could do all of that in an afternoon, because 3 things doesn't change. Well, 2 things doesn't change, and then the last one is a presumptive speed by the triggering points. 7,300 pounds for the vehicle, 220 pounds for the body, and according to the black box, 24.3 miles per hour. It's really easy to do the math. It's not complicated. Will wind resistant, minimal. Not that I think this guy would at all think about it, but it's really, really easy to do. And it's kind of your job. I'm just, hey, taxpayers in Massachusetts, write in the button. Give me money back. Yeah, if you go back and look at, I did it in one of my streams. I tried to look at it. Her acceleration was amazing. I want a Lexus because those cars have an acceleration that even a Tesla couldn't keep up with.
That presumes a couple of things.
Yeah, it's most likely tire spinning.
He was quote unquote sideswiped, right?
Presumed.
Presumed by you. You didn't see how he was hit, did you?
Based on the evidence, it appeared to be a sideswipe.
That's your opinion.
That's just reading the evidence.
You're saying that the principles of physics as we know them today in modern mathematics is thwarted by a sideswipe?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying?
It's the calculations that are out there. You can get a speed, it'll just underestimate the speed.
You would have to know what the initial momentum of the object is that's in motion, correct?
Of what object?
The truck.
The object in motion, he just said it.
Paul.
I would have to know that speed.
Yeah, you'd have to know what the initial momentum is, not speed, momentum. There's a difference,
Okay.
right? Would you agree with that?
No.
You wouldn't have to calculate what the initial momentum is of the object in motion to determine the distance of the body at rest would move?
Well, in that sense, are we talking about trying to find the speed of the vehicle? That's usually what we're trying to do.
Right, okay. Well, let's put the speed of the vehicle
He's
aside. Let's talk
horrible.
about initial momentum. What's the formula for calculating initial momentum?
There's different types of momentum formulas.
Well, there's actually one type of momentum formula. It's to calculate momentum.
Objection.
Speed and weight.
Sustained.
To calculate momentum, there is a single.
So sustained. Ask it differently.
Isn't it true, Trooper Paul, that there is a singular calculation for determining initial momentum? That is P equals M times V, where P is the momentum you're solving for that. M is mass, you multiply that by velocity. Is that right? Pretty simple.
You wouldn't use that in a pedestrian collision.
Oh, because
You would, because you need to find out how fast the object hitting the pedestrian was going. Because that's how you figure. I'm going to move to Massachusetts and be the smartest person who worked for the Massachusetts State Police. And I can barely speak English.
the pedestrians somehow magically out of the realm of physics?
Objection.
Sustained.
Is the pedestrian out of the realm of physics and calculations?
No, it's the weight differential between the pedestrian and the vehicle.
Why? You still need to know the force. And that's acceleration plus weight. Oh my God, he's stupid.
So if the vehicle is too heavy and the body is too light, you can't calculate the initial momentum of the vehicle?
Yes.
Got it. Where'd you learn that?
It's in my math class. We don't use momentum for a vehicle to be
Math class?
the crash reconstruction classes I have taken.
Got it. Would you need to apply the theory of conservation of momentum in calculating these data?
Do I need to calculate the conservation of momentum?
Heard of calculation? The conservation of momentum.
Yes.
You know what that is? There's an equation for that as well, right?
Yes.
You know what that is?
Not off the top of my head, but yes.
Based on the basic principles of physics, is the total momentum of the collision greater or less than the total momentum after the collision? Total momentum before the collision, is it greater or less than the total momentum after the collision? Basic question.
What type of collision?
Trooper Paul, they're exactly equal.
I want to say, just not to disparage anyone, I have a lot of wonderful viewers from Massachusetts who I regard highly. You're just very, very unlucky with your police officers.
In all respects, under the principles of physics, right? That's the theory of the conservation of momentum. Momentum doesn't change. It's
Yes.
transferred from one body to another,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Why didn't you say that to the jurors?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Trooper Paul, if you were qualified to, quote, look into all this stuff, you would probably know these answers, wouldn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Are there any other calculations that you'd need to figure out the stuff that you were talking to about with the grand jury?
Objection.
Sustained.
How about
I actually had a case like that where someone had to calculate an amount someone owed in taxes. And we asked, how do you get to that result? Well, the computer told me. How did the computer get to that result? I don't know. So you just claim that he owes you this amount of money, but you can't tell us how or why he does it. Well, the one who knew how to do it back in the day went retired. So now we just ask the computer. Yeah, we didn't use that part of it. Scott McGinnis, 17 months. Trooper Paul called by the defense, if not by Hank. No. I would never, ever waste 5 seconds on putting this guy and his stumbling speech up on the scene. I would keep with the ARCA guys, and I would use all my energy on destroying Welcher.
calculating the final velocity of the objects after the collision? Would that be important?
What objects?
That would be John O'Keefe's body, sir.
The
Object
Well,
was
yeah,
the
yes,
plane was
yes.
flying through the air 30 feet.
Okay,
Objection.
sustained.
How about calculating the displacement using kinematic equations? Would you be able to do that?
the displacement of the body.
In order to calculate how far the body would move based on the mass of the object striking the body, could you use displacement using kinematic equations?
So like I said before, the sideswipe, he would not have gotten 100% of the vehicle, 100% of the speed of the striking vehicle. It would have vastly underestimated this vehicle. You couldn't hit a person and sideswipe them and spin them off to the side and have that and get a speed from those calculations.
So you're saying that
Yes, you can. That's why you make several different calculations where you say, this is the force transmitted by 24.3 miles per hour going 7,300 pounds going 24.3 miles per hour. If this is the point of impact, this is the point of the body resting. What amount of force was transferred to make him go there? You can actually do the math. It's not that hard.
the discipline of physics cannot figure out how far John O'Keefe's body would move. But you personally figured out that he would have flown now somewhat, or been projected somewhat 30 feet.
Objection.
He's really
Sustained.
bad.
Are you saying that the principles of physics are incapable of determining with the proper calculations how far John O'Keefe's body would have moved given the collision at issue?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying, Trooper?
No.
Okay, next question.
Congratulations, Ginger.
You just said because it was a sideswipe, all these calculations, these physics calculations are inapplicable, right?
I'm saying it would underestimate the speed and the distance.
The case isn't going to take 6 weeks. The case is never, ever, it's set for X amount of weeks. But you can't just say, well, you can't go on. Well, unless they're not bringing anything new. It's an estimation that you give, you say, because the jury might have a holiday planned, they might have a birthday party coming up. So you say, we assume that the state will be on, I think Hanky said 6 to 8 weeks, and defense said probably 2. Even if we get to 12 weeks, it's not, nope, you can't talk anymore. It's an estimation. A trial is fluid. We just had 2 days off and, well, an extra day off too, because Bev needed a little pick-me-up after she won her Person of the Year award. So it's not a timeline that's 100% set. It's just an estimation that you give to the jury so the jury knows, okay, I'm not going to plan anything for the next 10 weeks. And then if you're lucky, you'll be home in 9. There's no, it's not a deadline set that you must finish your trial with or your case within X amount of weeks. But again, if they're just peddling water and doing nothing, the judge can say, well, move on, or you will lose. You saw that in the Dale Brooks case. He lost his right. He lost his right to call witnesses because he was, I can't remember what thing, he was obnoxious. Pedego? Oh, Ginger with a soul. She said she's very late, so I assume she's pregnant. If you can prove that anyone did it, I don't know how you would prove it. Hey, Kit Kat. Okay, because I keep hearing Bev say they are ahead of schedule. Again, they will say to the jury, we think this will be a 10-week case. And then she will say, no, relax. Even though we're taking a couple of days off, it'll still be a 10-week case. The black box records a few seconds of data for a possible crash event. The infotainment system doesn't record sensors other than its own GPS, I think. I don't know enough about stuff like that.
The truth is, Trooper Paul, you have no idea what all these physics calculations mean, do you?
Objection.
Sustained.
You've not been trained in physics formally, have you?
Yes,
You have been.
it's incorporated into the classes.
Right. You had a few classes that use the word physics, but you haven't been formally trained in physics, have you?
Objection.
Sustained.
You haven't been formally trained in kinematics, correct?
It's in the aspects of all our crash reconstruction classes.
You haven't been formally trained and hold no degrees in biomechanics, do you?
I do not have a degree in biomechanics.
In fact, basically what you did in this case was calculated emission cycles. And you even got those wrong, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson. Ask the appropriate part of the question and you'll get it.
Let me ask you this. Based on your reconstruction, nearly 2-year investigation, exactly how was that taillight shattered? Explain it to us.
How does it taillight? What do you? It gets so the taillight in this case was shattered when it was struck John O'Keefe's arm.
Exactly what part of his arm?
Based on what I saw for his injuries, was from the upper part of his arm down.
Was his arm out? It just struck the arm on a hinge? Was it in front of him? You did the reconstruction?
It
Here's exactly how his body was positioned.
Yeah, that's a different thing in a civil case, but this is a criminal case. They have the right to put on a defense.
When he was struck by that.
So it looks like his arm was more kind of like this. If I can try to get that.
You're indicating out by
This is kind of like one of those Brandon texts where you're sitting and, oh, that's a cool,
his side, correct?
Yes.
All right. And the taillight would have struck his arm, right?
Yes.
Not his torso.
Yes.
Okay. So the full mass, the full weight of that truck hit him basically at the elbow. Is that right? Missing his
No.
torso.
I said it's from the upper part of the arm
Right.
down.
The
Yeah.
elbow and the biceps.
I didn't see anything that shows an indication that this lower torso was struck, but
Okay. So his torso,
it's not saying it could not have been a possibility, but I just didn't see anything.
so his torso was spared from being hit, but the arm took the brunt, the full force of the vehicle, correct?
Like arm and shoulder, yes.
Okay. And you said he then did a spin, like a sort of pirouette.
He got spun around possibly the way it struck, it looked like it could have turned around counterclockwise.
Okay. So if he turns around counterclockwise, is he turning around in the air counterclockwise?
Yes, initially.
So it gets hit on the upper biceps, shoulder area, and down to the forearms, right?
Yes,
By an unbroken taillight, right?
yes,
In other words, it's nice and smooth. Nothing, no shards of plastic or anything broken at the time that it made contact with his arm, right?
correct.
Okay, so how did his arm get open up?
Because when his arm struck the taillight then cracked, and as the car driving past him, the taillight could scratch it.
Got it. So he gets hit by the car, not his torso, just the arm. The taillight cracks, and as it passes by, his arm stays with it long enough to get striations, those scratches that you see, those lacerations. I'm sorry, those abrasions that you see, right?
In a sense, yes.
And at the same time, he does a pirouette and flies 30 feet to his final point of rest.
I don't know if he did a pirouette.
Well, I'm using the word pirouette. He spun around.
He started rotating counterclockwise. I don't know how far he ran counterclockwise, but he started rotating. According to that, would push him to rotate counterclockwise. Whether or not he went counterclockwise all the way to his back toward the ground, it seems like a most likely possibility.
Did you account for the fact that his arm is on a hinge?
Is what? Say again?
Did you account for the fact in this scenario that you just told the jurors that his arm is on a hinge?
On a
On his
hinge.
shoulder?
Okay.
Right? So, the arm got hit.
I love how this is the smart guy they brought in, and he just sounds like he never heard the word on a hinge before. Okay. It just means that you have this hinge here. And anyone believing that a car striking this part of an arm, sending them flying in the air, doing a pirouette, and still staying with and scratching his arm. Any of you do bench presses? One of the things that most guys find out when they have done a lot of bench pressing when they're younger is the shoulder is really, really a delicate little thing because there's a lot of moving parts in the shoulder. All of this, the rotator cuffs, everything would have been ripped to pieces if he's only taking an arm when it gets moved with this amount of force. If you've ever bench pressed and you did the good old flaring up of the shoulder, you know how bad your shoulder hurts when you get older. Imagine then something ripping it. It's so stupid. Stupid. I was watching that Mercedes commercial. I doubt his arm would slow down an accelerating car much. Got me again.
Swing.
I said arm and shoulder area, so his arm could have been considered part of it.
Even
Press.
if his shoulder got the upper
Okay.
pointing to his upper biceps.
Mhm.
Right? There's no injuries on his shoulder. Not a single one. Not even a bruise. Right?
Like I said, it looked like to me it was from up here. I don't know how far I can up back here, but it was up here.
Well,
So
you're the one that talked about his injuries on his arm.
yes.
That's limited to about mid biceps, to about mid forearm, correct?
Okay.
Right?
Because
Yes.
he was
No injuries on the shoulder. No injuries on the torso.
it's right arm going
injuries
that
on
way.
the
That's
hips, No injuries
counterclockwise.
on the back, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
So your theory is you got hit on the arm, took the brunt of the force from the taillight on the arm, stayed with the vehicle long enough for the taillight to explode, basically, to shatter. Then these striations get on his arm, abrasions. Does a pirouette, spin, counterclockwise, and flies 30 feet in the air to his point of rest.
Yeah, it happened probably a little faster than that, though.
Happened a little fast.
I actually said he hit his head on the curb.
I said that's one of the possibilities of when you look at the roadway as he gets spun around kind of clockwise. It's a possibility that the curb is there. Any blunt force object on the ground, as the ground is pretty blunt.
Well, except in your scenario that you just told us, he flew through the air onto the light dusting of snow, grass, and dirt.
I didn't say through the air.
Say that again?
I didn't say he got thrown through the air.
Okay, I'll use your word. He got projected. Like,
Projected doesn't mean it's not incorporating just the throw. Project just means you get pushed forward. There's two parts of that. There's the air, then there's the ground. Like I said earlier, the tumbling, the rolling.
He got spun in the air. Again, this is why we need to watch this before we saw it. Spun in the air, counterclockwise, while doing a somersault, hitting the curb, and still landing on the grass. Because if you don't think about it, it makes sense. Once there was this boy. Sometimes I just forget. You weren't here yesterday, Brandon, so I thought you might have changed. Been a good person for once.
Whatever that part of the crash would happen. Projecting is just what we call what happens to a pedestrian post-impact with the crash.
Okay, so a couple questions. If his arm, elbow, grunt that entire impact, how do you account for the fact that he didn't suffer a broken bone?
I don't know.
How do you account for the fact that he didn't have a fracture?
Objection.
Sustained.
An unburdened
How do you account
African
for
or
the fact
European Lexus.
that he didn't even have a bruise on the arm?
Objection.
That's sustained too.
May reproach.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that. He would have been black and blue on that arm. It wouldn't just have been scratches or abrasions. His arm would have been torn from the socket. I can't give you one because I'm not sure that guy speaks English. Oh. Well, just like the guys on Normandy, sometimes we have to do sacrifices. I feel for you. This is the very definition of painful to watch testimony. Talk about secondhand embarrassment around the globe. This is horrible, and this is the smart guy they brought. This isn't some bumbling fool who's just trying to make up a story. This is a guy who's actually getting paid for science and stuff.
May I inquire you?
Yes.
The truth is, Trooper Paul, you know, having investigated auto pedestrian accidents in the past, that John O'Keefe's injuries do not look anything like an automobile pedestrian accident, do they?
Yes, I do.
Isn't it true, Trooper Paul, you came to these opinions and conclusions because Trooper Proctor told you to come to these opinions and conclusions in furtherance of his investigation?
That is not true.
That's why you have these opinions and conclusions that just don't make sense, correct?
That is not true.
And you're just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Action.
Sustained. All right, jurors will take the morning recess.
All rise for the court, please.
And I'll see counsel at sidebar about scheduling.
Paulo Balls when he was still looking angry. Yeah, BM Trouble is the guy who brought up the video, and even the tail light. Yes, it could crack, but it would fracture the arm. So everyone should go. Is that the name of his channel? BM Trouble. I think it's BM Trouble 13 or BN 13 Trouble. I can't remember the correct name, but that guy, he has some really, really good videos about the physical parts of this trial. He's getting paid for stuff, not science. Didn't read his contract. Of course, Karen will still be allowed to put on a defense. It is still the US of A. Yeah, hopefully, I don't know. I might be alone, and I'm such a romantic, walks on the beach, early morning frolicking. But I kind of feel like Bev has gotten better since Dr. Wolf said we were informed by the DOJ because they were following along in the first trial. It's kind of like she changed her demeanor a bit. She's still a see you next Tuesday. Well, she is a see you next Tuesday because she'll be back tomorrow. But I feel like she has been a little more I won't call it fair, and maybe it's because she really dislikes Alan Jackson. But I feel when Leslie's up there, he gets to poke the bear a little bit more, and she's just doing the poke, poke, because I think she likes him. It's BN Trouble 31, Miss Wright. Everyone, if you haven't been there, I know most of you already have been, because very, very, very informative videos. You should go check him out, because he, with a very low budget, proves that whatever the Commonwealth claims couldn't have happened. Yeah, I have no idea why the Commonwealth had felt the need to replace this genius. He is horrible. Who is more entertaining, Trooper Paul or Dr. Spiegel? I think Dr. Spiegel, because his testimony, yeah, he was the one who said, I evaluated Johnny Depp and he's an alcoholic. How? By watching Pirates of the Caribbean. So because he's a good actor, he claimed that Johnny Depp was an alcoholic. Yes, sir. Didn't he just whack a forward-moving Lexus with it, though? He put out the arm and a Lexus. There would be, because again, the tail light was put on kind of an apparatus, so it wouldn't carry the full weight. But I think it was more just to prove what would happen to an arm that got hit by a tail light. A Paul O'Keefe mashup would be interesting. His glare downs at pro Karen Reed in court. I saw someone had noticed. No, that was Brian Albert who didn't look at Karen Reed. Sorry, yeah. You don't have jokes. You have dad jokes. Fed had nothing better to do than creep on people. No, that's their job, actually. We just had ours is called Police Intelligence Service, our secret service, and the government wanted to give them the right to just surveil you without anything, that they could just electronically surveil you just in case that you might do a crime. Luckily, that was struck down, but communism is great. Why is the rum gone? Oh, I was thinking, what the hell? Someone spoke to her about it. Must have the Fed's investigation is over. They're watching. They just might indict the whole lot when this trial is over. Why is the rum always gone? They're not going to indict the whole lot. Beverly Canoni hasn't done anything that would remove her immunity she has when she's a judge. No matter what we feel about it, nothing rising to the level that's needed to remove her prosecutorial immunity. They would have to prove that she actively tampered with the jury or stuff like that. Her being a C word in court isn't enough to remove her prosecutorial. When I think about it, I can't say it. Her judge's immunity. I know a lot of people out there tried speculating about it because she had an administrative role and then she had another role, and that means that, oh, she's in trouble now. No, she's not. The rules are clear. She's a judge. The judge have the immunity. It's not the position she works, because that administrative job is just one that rolls over to everyone. Has nothing to do with anything. Her don't think about it. Immunity stays with her, so it doesn't matter that this is the big problem with the Karen Reed case. It gets a little slow, and then people will make a video saying, "Oh, I have new evidence, and I know that Bev will be 100% safe. There won't happen unless they can prove she tampered with the jury. Nothing will happen to her." You don't think Bev is better at all? I think she's allowed more than she did the last time. That's one strong bionic arm to not break or get bruised to hell and back. Well, it did break a lot, his arm. That DA Meatballs claim the feds are creeping on his office and state police detective group just over politics. Meanwhile, Matthew Farwell is jailed by the feds in Birchmore. Yeah, and 10 officers have been removed or disciplined. I saw the hottest take of hot takes. Did I bookmark it? I think I did bookmark it. Yes. I don't know who Furious George is, other than I really hope they sit down when they're trying to breed, because it could be a problem. This is the hottest take I've seen in a long time. Karen Reed knowingly reported a false federal crime to gain access to Proctor's personal phone. Hopefully, federal charges will find her and Proctor gets his job reinstated with back pay. Sometimes I'm thinking about that. Who was it who said, being stupid is like being dead? It doesn't hurt you, it just hurts everyone around you. Because these people don't know how stupid they are. They don't know how dumb a take that is. That entire claim that, well, Karen Reed got the DOJ to look into this because they had connections. Squeeze me. ¿Cómo está la cerebro? Are you stupid? That's not how the DOJ works. Oh. I know who Curious George is. It's the man with the yellow hat. The pain is only felt by everyone around you. Yeah, that's how it's said. Oh, it's Ricky Gervais. Yeah, I knew it was some comedian, but it's such a true thing. When I go on my Twit, and I know I'm an idiot because I get into all these Twitter fights with stupid people. But I'm sometimes when I can see they have kids, idiocracy isn't that far off. Imagine if we have 2-3 generations where these are the people who breed and the rest of us stay off, as we would say in Denmark, stay off the wound. You know what I mean. Horrible. The jury wouldn't have complained because Bev doesn't have to listen to the jury, and even if they thought that they wanted to hear something, she would tell them, it's my job as a judge to rule on objections. It's not yours. They couldn't change their mind even if they had sent 45 text messages or messages to her. Again, there's a lot of stories going around, and almost none of them are true. Is that from Pet Detective? Well, I don't think they can imagine much either because they must be too dumb. Careful. Yeah, Idiocracy is a documentary. That's what I asked earlier, if they had a lot of lead pipes. You see dumb people everywhere. I'm no Karen Reed fan, but we're talking about putting one in jail for life with this ridiculous made-up he said, she said evidence. J.I., I don't think I would personally like to hang out with Karen Reed as well. Seems like there was a lot of drinking, there was a lot of partying going on. I don't mind it. When I go to the US next week, yes, I'll have my share of beers and see my share of establishments. But this constant hanging out in bars, I don't think. And she's an economic, financial strategist. That's another thing they're saying. Karen Reed never really worked jobs. She just had temp jobs. Yeah, sure. All these couch riding e-beggars who are sitting there saying, "Oh, Karen Reed is so stupid." It's the same people who are sitting there making wish lists so they can get a tent from their EBT followers. Yeah, kind of like that. Guilty or innocent, just way too much reasonable doubt, in my opinion. Yes, this is the problem. But again, we know the jury doesn't care. The jury is horrendous in most cases. And we know from the first case, again, they were Furious George level of stupid if they couldn't see reasonable doubt. And I saw another one. That was actually one who was free, Karen Reed, who said, any doubt. It's not any doubt. It's any reasonable doubt. There is a difference because there will always be doubt. Did she go 24.3 or 24.2 miles per hour? That's doubt. You can't say, well, the speedometer didn't match. She's free. It's any reasonable doubt. Just so. Because we have a defense lawyer every time. I've been in court way too much. Every time he gives his speech, he always starts out with saying, any doubt must befall the defendant. And then the prosecutor has to stand up and say, no, it's any reasonable doubt. It's just every time. Will I be deterring the distilleries? Jack D is near there, along with many in Kentucky. I wish I would. I like, as you can see, a little bit of the whisk, but I won't be having a car this time again because Valhalla got a little pissy that he couldn't pick me up with his boombox over his head in Tyson McGee. So again, I will rely on the kindness of others to get around. But I want to grift hard enough that I can spend like 2 weeks in the States and do more of a road trip. Even though I probably shouldn't be driving if I go to the distilleries. I'd like to go to Old Smokies. I'd like to go. I'm not the biggest fan of Jack D. But I know there's a lot of good places down there. And you can go to Kentucky if I'm driving up to Chicago and maybe catch a few down there as well. In the US, best bet is to stick with beer you never heard of. I never, ever heard about Yingling, and apparently that's a cheap beer, but I really like that one. When we were out drinking, I asked for different beers just to try some of the ones. I know Bud, and I know Coors. That's American too. Made with Rocky Mountain spring water. Piss weak beer, something you can give to pregnant women and children. No, the children doesn't have to be pregnant, but it's weak beer. No one wants to drink that for a night. You'll die for dehydration because you're pissing so much before you get drunk. But I like Yingling or whatever it's called. I tried, what's the Cadillac of beers? Was it Cadillac? I think someone called it a Cadillac of beers. Wasn't good. I think Yingling was the beer I preferred. I had a 40 OE. That was okay cold. Well, thank you, Emspire, that you chose us. I saw the picture of John's arm. That's where I got interested in over on Vice's channel. So yeah. For a single man, Baker should know his rom-coms. Hey, I need to learn how to talk to women, and do that in rom-coms. You have Uber. Well, Uber is illegal in Denmark because it's unfair competition against cab companies. Yes, we are a socialist state, if you weren't aware. No, we are not. You're, well, kind of like. It's the oldest brewery, and it's pretty good. Now he's trying to pee off his co-host. Valhalla drinks Yingling. He's the guy who gave me Yingling. Oh, you live in Pigeon Forge. That's a dry county, or at least Dollywood is a dry county, I've told. Coors Light is really not good. Canadian beer is good. Miller High Life. Yeah, it's probably Miller High Life I had. Wasn't that good. For your travels, have fun and stay safe. Thank you so much, the other Jules. I will, if I ever get out of Finland. I really don't want to get stuck in Helsinki. Not that I don't want to see Finland, but getting stuck 2 hours into a 26-hour travel is probably not gonna make me a happy camper. But thank you so much for this. I will spend it unwisely on something sugary, fat, or with alcohol. Yeah, Valhalla brought me an OE. That was good. Yeah, but I don't think he's a closer. Does Denmark has as many Teslas per capita as Norway? We got Tesla 3s. Everyone is getting a Tesla 3 right now. It's become the middle class family's car. So I don't know. Why was the verdict in the first trial not accepted? Because there was no verdict. The verdict in the first trial was that there was a hung jury. They couldn't agree on. The jurors who have come forward after said they agreed on the first charge and the third charge, but they couldn't agree on the second charge. And then because they didn't fill out not guilty in 1 and 3, because Bev have told them, don't return it until you are agreeing on everything, it was seen as a hung jury, and then it was thrown out. I don't like Budweiser. I like Budvar, the Czech Budweiser. That's a really good beer. I tried sending you Broken Skull beer. They said they needed to see your passport. Don't go there. Yingling was not distributed in New England for decades. When I travel, I would bring some home. These days, it's available in New England as of like 12 years ago. I like it. It tastes kind of like the beer we have in it. Well, I would say I have my favorite. That's from my own island, but that's primarily only sold on my island, so not a lot. It's not like if I go to Copenhagen, I know 3 bars where I can get it. But I've drank that since the first time. My first beer I ever had at a party was one of those, and it stuck with me ever since. I like that beer. Then we have something called Tuborg. That's kind of like the working man's beer, and I think it's way too sour. Somewhere in between those two is Yingling. I like that. Stella Artois is my favorite beer, but can't have alcohol anymore. Stella Artois is a good summer beer, I would say, because it doesn't really taste like anything. Well, I just need to become a good enough drifter, and Australia needs to be real. Then I could go there. And of course, you would have to remove all the dangerous animals. Then I'll go there. Any chance I'll swing by Texas? Not this time around. And if you can clean out all the rattlesnakes, all the scorpions, all the whatever else deadly animals, Iris is allowed there, even though she's technically a deadly animal as well. I might swing by Texas. And if you can lower the degrees into a human level. Scary to travel to the US. I don't recommend. I love being in the US. Wonderful country, wonderful people. Most friendly people I've ever met is Americans, especially for a guy from Scandinavia where we don't talk to anyone unless we have known them in 3 generations. I love how friendly everyone always is in the States. I got to get barbecue at a congressman's house the last time I was there. Wonderful. I got to meet a lot of wonderful people, and Wallstorm was there. So I love the Americas. Don't sleep on the new Busch Light apple. Oh, we have an apple beer from my company as well. That's pretty good. I like those. I can't have Weiss beer. My stomach can't handle it. I like the beer on tap in Norway. Well, there's probably a few different ones, but it's pretty pricey in Norway. If you buy the non-expert version of Stella Artois, it does taste quite a lot. It's higher alcohol and unfiltered. The expert version must get to try taste like most gets to try taste like water. It's kind of like Foster's. It's just an export beer. Kronenbourg. Yeah, I like Kronenbourg. Hochgarten, I can't drink it. My stomach can't do wheat beer. If you stay away from the water and land, you'll be safe. Yeah, I'll just levitate. Sam Adams, I don't think I tried that. Well, I don't smile. Everyone tells me to smile more, but I've never done it. I don't. It just feels unnatural to me, and I'll smirk, but that's about as much as I'll smile. My sister smiles a lot, but we are. If we know you, we will die for you. But getting to know us is, that thing. A man has 6 friends in his life. I think everyone in Scandinavia say, "Yeah, 6. You need 2." When in Tennessee, you got to go through Wears Valley, beautiful country. Also, be very careful on the mountain roads. Yeah, but I'm not driving, so yeah. We're definitely going to Twin Peaks this time. Hooters went bankrupt. I blame you, Valhalla. My cousin from Norway arrived next week. They are all persistent in visiting New York City. I will not recommend this. I will second that recommendation. I took my kids to the US in 2017. Yes, 2017. Stayed in Delaware with some friends we had. Wonderful people. Went to Washington, like that. Beautiful Arlington, what's it called? Memorial Mile or whatever it's called. Beautiful. The museums where you can just walk in. I recommend the Holocaust Museum. It's really great. My kids were surprised that the Danish had as big a part of the exhibit as we had. Loved it. Loved Delaware. Hated New York. Really hated being there. The smell, the amount of people. I had to cross Manhattan to get to our hotel, which was absolutely horrendous. The only good thing was I got to go to Ground Zero. That was kind of a thing I really wanted because I had just finished my deployment when 9/11 happened. So, and I was actually called up for Afghanistan, but because I just had my oldest daughter, I didn't have to go. We have grandbabies on the same day. I just had a glorious visit with mine. I hope you see yours before the trip. I probably won't have time to do it because, again, it's a 2-hour drive back and each way. So it's a little, because I have to do this all week and then I have to pack all my crap in the weekend, clean my house, stuff like that. Hey, I'd be honored to meet her as well. Beer makes you a violent football hooligan. I'm British, so we have previous experience in that area. Well, I don't think I've ever started a fight at a football game. I've been punched a few times at a football game. Well, that'll be next time, probably. I had a friend who traveled to Egypt with two females, and the story she told, I wouldn't. My parents went to Egypt maybe 15 years ago, had a good time, but still, you have to look out where you're going, and yeah. But they did the Nile cruise. These two ladies went down there and they were in a resort And then one day they were like, "Hey, let's go out." And the guy at the counter said, we have this trip that we do every whatever day of the week where we will bring a bus and you can go in with us. No, we're just getting a cab. I think they lasted 15 minutes in the shopping area of the city, and then I had to go back because they were deadly afraid that they were gonna get by people who it's not for single women. Yeah, my daughter was born 5 days later, and my sister made a collage of this was in the papers on your day. They weren't that great. I can't drive. I have a bad back. I have 2 herniated discs, so I can't drive a roller coaster, sadly. That must have been wonderful for your parents to go to Egypt. My dad was there in the 60s. Yeah, 60s. He said that was less bad than it is now. Yeah, if you're going outside, go with a group because they will have guards on you. I had a buddy of mine who used to sail cargo ships. They had a shipment going from, I think, Charleston to Saudi or something like that, and there were some weapons on board. And he said when they were in port, they had like 5 layers of protection because people would just try and come and steal it down there. So, but everyone, it's Memorial Day. It's dinner o'clock in Denmark. I'm going to send you all over to the wonderful Mo, and she will take you by the hand and take me by the hand. And hopefully you will show her a little bit of love and come back tomorrow. Remember, might be a little bit later because I have court duty tomorrow. But other than that, go enjoy a great Memorial Day. And thank you for all of those who sacrificed so we didn't have to.
Yes, I did examine his lower extremities. That is protocol in any case of suspected impact with a motor vehicle. So I did examine his legs and I did not see any evidence of an impact site.
Just pin it on the girl, right?